All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final roundtable of Outlast 2023. We are here with our final five, the five contestants that made our finale, which aired, I think, not last Sunday, but the Sunday before. These are very busy people with very busy lives, so it's taken us a little time to get them all together, but we're so excited to have all five of them here with Peter, Stephanie, Hannah, Andy, and Rachel. And this is just meant to be a casual chat about the game, about their experience, about their memories, stuff maybe we didn't see in the episodes, and just anything they want to share about their time. This is kind of sadly, the last time to really reflect back on the game of last year as we gear up for season. I keep wanting to say season 4, but it's season 3, gearing up for season 3. So with that, we'll just do a quick around the horn for everyone. Just talk a little bit about, when you first entered the game, coming into the game, kind of what was your initial approach? If you want to dabble a little bit in your previous experience and maybe how that informed how you were coming into the game, that would be great. If you didn't have experience, kind of what did that mean for you? How did you approach the game? And specifically for Peter and Hannah, as we mentioned in the finale episode, you were fairly last-minute alternate replacements. So I'd love for you to just touch a little bit on like what that was like for you, and if that kind of altered your thinking coming into the game as well. So we're just going to go in order in terms of elimination from the game. So we'll start with Stephanie.
I did it. I'm unmuted. Okay. So heading into the game, I had one experience before, which is surviving Maine, my first and only LRG experience. I had no idea anything about this community or anything about how these games work. And I went into that game rip-roaring. Like I was there to play. And it didn't work out so well for me. So I knew, coming in, reflecting on my game. I played with you, Justin, so that part was awesome. So I got to reflect with, Justin and reflect on my game. And I learned that I got to tone it way the heck down for Outlast. And so my intention going into this game was to lay low. I know I'm kind of a loud person. So I said, I'm going to go in, I'm going to lay low. I'm not going to cause any controversy. I'm not going to start anything. And I have to say, I think I did a pretty good job of that in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, we talked about it, Steph, kind of pre-game of just like, what can we do differently about going into this game? And I was really happy and impressed as the host and kind of an outside observer to kind of just see how you altered your game. And I obviously loved being kind of your number 2 in surviving Maine and working with you as a partner and as a pair. But as that partner and pair, I was like, boy, she is a hot rocket. Like that. I think for some reason that's good for me. Like you're maybe being seen as a bigger threat or a bigger target than me just because of how out there and how loud you are. So it was really cool to see you alter your game that way, given that feedback, given that experience. So it was really cool. And I love one of my favorite quotes from that kind of the early episodes are like, that you were just sitting there boiling, wanting to say something about, I think it was the the Outpost and Trey and Jacob stories and all this stuff. And you didn't, you like held back. So I was really proud of you for that.
That was my big test. Like that was it. And that was like in like the 5 minutes into the game. It was like, can you keep your mouth shut? And I think if you watch back, I'm like, please, someone say it. Someone say it. He's lying. Like, but I couldn't do it. And I did it and I kept quiet. And it caused a lot of trouble. I think maybe if I had just said something, but anyways.
All right, Andy, how about for you?
It's my story is, a bit of an outlier in that, as everyone here knows, I help produce Survival Challenge. And so I've been around these games for about a decade, but this was my 3rd game ever. I had taken 9 years off between games. And so my mindset coming into this thing, or at least coming into the summer, was, I need to shake off some rust, and I don't know if I can keep up with these people because the casts have gotten stronger. The players have gotten stronger. I've gotten older. Y'all have gotten younger. And you guys, again, the cast was amazing. And I'm looking around like there are no soft spots. And in those early seasons, you could identify some soft spots where it's like, okay, they're here just for fun, or they don't necessarily know what they're doing. And so the game is just different now. And then you throw in the fact that I had played the weekend before. Pro tip, don't ever do it. Don't do it. Predominantly, psychologically, you don't have time to like put everything in its place and have sort of the clean slate going into the next one. But also for me anyway, physically, and I think I've told you this, Justin, like when at the end of that previous game, I had 3 days to turn it around. And like on that Tuesday, I was out hiking my dogs and I basically doubled over in pain. And I was like, I don't know what's going on with me right now, but it's got to turn around by Thursday or I can't do this. But you know, a little bit of, you know, self-care and, you know, sort of buckled down and I was fine going into it, but that was always in the back of my mind. Like, okay, this is going to be more deprivation. And, you know, I'm an age outlier. I'm survivor old. I refuse to say that I'm totally old, but I'm survivor old. Right. But, you know, but as soon as the game starts, I'm in production mode. I'm looking around at the game perhaps a little differently than everybody else, where I'm like, okay, what's Justin up to? First of all, I have to like not ignore, but it's like, okay, I know Travis and oh my gosh, there's Justin. I haven't seen him in a while. And there's Bobby over there. And I worked with him and all of that. And everyone's being really professional about it, acting like we don't know each other. And so I'm doing that too, but I'm just looking around like, okay, we're lining up. And as soon as actually Maya got out in that red shirt, I was like, wait a minute. Okay. The note said you don't have to wear the color. I look up and down the row and I'm like, I think this might be our tribe. So I need to start talking to people like this is our tribe. And if this is our tribe, then wherever we're going, there might be a note. There might be like, again, I'm just in production mode. And like I had throughout the game, I had to like, that helped. But also I was like, no, I need to just relate to people as people. That's the game. Right. And so, but you know, that's sort of the weird level of obsession I get into. Like I got up to the location hours early and parked myself at the nearest grocery store to see if I would see other people who are clearly identifiably like I'm playing an LRG and, you know, just trying to eye them up and down and see what they were, you know, and I saw some people wearing some blue and I was like, okay, all right, now I've got a little bit of information to work with. And that's, again, I just go into production mode, but once the game starts, you kind of have to throw a lot of that out the window. So, yeah, I know that's a lot. Sorry, that's a ramble.
No, that's great. And one of the questions I had for you is how much do you think Can You Survive the week before impacted your strategy? I know you talked a little bit about just like getting kind of flipping the switch, getting 3 days to kind of get into this game. But do you think anything that happened in that game, either decisions that you made or how the game turned out? I think that was I'm pretty sure that was the season where like there was a 5 female identifying kind of alliance that ended up kind of taking it home. Did any of that impact kind of how you played Outlast?
Yes and no. No, in the sense that, you know, and Steph can speak to this, like there were like girl things and coming together and like I was all cool with that. And if that's the way things had gone, it's like I wasn't sort of opposed to that happening just because I had just gone through a season like it. But it was more like, and I know, and I'm going to be probably saying this way too many times over the course of this conversation, but like the people game aspect of it, I didn't like my initial tribe in that game. I had my people and then we got scattered to the winds and I lost them. And when I got to the merge, none of my, like one person was there, but she was now aligned with other people, but it was just like, I couldn't get any traction. And that was for lots of reasons. There were a lot of people from Survival Challenge who were there, and it's a weird dynamic because they were part of production and I kind of oversee them. There's a weird power dynamic. And it was just like, this is not a pure experience at all, particularly because everyone had been pre-gaming, because everyone can announce that they're raising money and all of that. And it was just like, you know, as much as I appreciated everything that the production team did, and Brandon does a great job, and, you know, people played their hearts out, it didn't feel good to me. And so that informed me coming into this one. It's like, I did not play well. and I made choices that I shouldn't have made, and sort of, I dug my own grave to a certain degree. But I fought tooth and nail to make the merge there. But it's like, okay, I don't want that to be my story this time. I want to find some great people and play with them deep into the game if I can. And but the biggest thing for me actually was late in the game, and we'll talk about this as we talk about how things unfold. But I was not, like, you're asking so much of your brain to process everything that's happening around you. By Sunday of the second game, like, this sounds like excuses, and I accept all of my mistakes in the game, but like, I should have been able to figure out that final four puzzle. Hands down. I had the word 3 in there. I had the word final at some point, or at least most of it. And it's like, that's what you do at the Final Four Challenge on production, is you work in the phrase final 3. You do stuff like that. Like it drives me nuts. Even now, you can hear it in my voice. Like, I'm stammering. I'm so frustrated, but it's like, I couldn't think straight. And I was just trying to like ride the emotion and the connections to the end, because I just wasn't, I made some decisions early in the game where I was proud of how I was thinking. By Sunday, I wasn't thinking at all. So the game had an impact on it. And I'm part of the woulda, coulda, shouldas, or what ifs for me are, what would the game have been like if this was the only game I had played? I might have bottomed out and done the same stupid things I did in Can You Survive, and bombed out. But I'd like to think I would have had my head on straight on Sunday if I had gotten there. But anyway, everything happens the way it's meant to happen. So.
Well, I'm sure Hannah's very happy that your brain wasn't quite working the way it should have on that last day. Rachel, how about for you? Kind of initial thoughts coming into the game? Any kind of strategy you brought in? I think I know the answer, but I'm curious how you're going to respond.
What do you think my answer is?
I think it sums up pretty well in the statement. I didn't even look up the weather for the weekend, so.
Yeah. So my Survivor experience, I guess, I played at Ohio State, and I didn't realize there was anything like it. It's crazy at the college level because it was a whole semester. So it was a lot of strategy, and which is very different from a weekend. And I did really well. I went to Final 5. I had votes on my side and got idled out. And then the guy who was Jeff Coates there played Survival Challenge and was like, oh my gosh, guys, this is amazing. You'd love it. So I applied for that. And again, I thought it was like never heard of an LRG. I thought it was like the only Survivor kind of thing in the world. And it was amazing. The challenges were so cool and I loved it. But it was a lot less time to strategize, and that got to me. I did really well in that game too, and I just shot myself in the foot. I tried to vote out the person that had a necklace around their neck. So I feel like my social game was still good for that one. I just, shot myself. So then when Justin, who played with me in Survival Challenge, told me about this game, I was like, great. Justin did an amazing reunion for us for Survival Challenge. So I know that he knows how to plan things, and it's in Boston, so that means I can make some friends. So I'm in. And I feel like I don't really have a strategy. I just be myself. I make allies the same way that I make friends. I'm not the most outspoken. I'm the one that's going to kind of sidebar joke with you, and if you laugh, then I think we're buddies, and we'll go from there. And yeah, I play a loyal game, and there's nothing that makes me more satisfied in life or in Survivor when you like make a promise that people think you're not going to keep, and then you go ahead and you keep it, and people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she actually did that. Like when I got the chance to join the vote and be like that influencer person, that was so fun for me to then prove to the yellows, like, yeah, see, I'm in it, I got this, I'm with you. So yeah, my strategy is doing the same thing I do in life, pretty much, and trusting my people.
Cool. I just want to quickly just say, again, it's very casual. If anyone needs to step away, as you can see, Rachel's joining us from an event, so her camera might pop on and off. I'm dealing with a new puppy at my house, so my camera might pop off and off if I'm running to ensure someone's not peeing on my rug. So it's all very casual. And for those of you watching, just enjoy the ride. Awesome. All right. Hannah, tell us about your kind of initial thoughts coming into Outlast.
Yeah, so I had never played in an LRG or an ORG and had never even known what they were. And I kind of similarly thought that there's only the CBS version. And then I was like, oh, and then there's this. So in my head, this was like the only possible chance to ever play one of these things ever. So I was super nervous, but also super excited. And I started out as an alternate. And I think you only let me know like a few weeks in advance, enough where I had like a little bit of time to like prepare, but not a lot of time. So really like my preparation was like, oh, I need to send you my video and figure out what I'm packing. And I just, because of that, I think I was so like just preparing the logistics that I didn't really come in with like a strategy beyond like hoping that I'm not the first person out. So like, as I said in the first episode, like I didn't learn how to make fire. I didn't like study any puzzles or anything. I was just honestly like so happy to have been asked to come at all that I wanted to do well, but cared more about the experience than like, oh, I have to win.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I think were a referral, or at least knew someone that played season 1. Eric, did you ask him for any advice, or did he give you any insight going into the game, kind of maybe what to expect?
Well, I was so afraid of getting in trouble since you said don't say anything to anybody. So I didn't say anything to him. And when we first came in and everybody said like, look at the walls or look into the field, again, I was afraid of getting in trouble. So I didn't like smile at anybody or make eye contact because I didn't want to get in trouble with production, which now I know was like, would not have gotten me kicked out of the game. But
I love that
I'm a
though.
little follower.
All future players should follow Hannah's lead. All right. Don't talk about the fact that you were cast, and follow all of our rules to a T. I love it. All right, Peter, how about for you?
Yeah, so like Hannah, I was an alternate. But unlike Hannah, I found out the week that we were playing that I was going to be in there. So I had applied on a whim in the first place. I was literally just like looking up, like a watch party for the 43 finale in Boston, and found a Facebook group and saw a post that Justin had made about Outlast and was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'll follow that. And then eventually you had posted an application link. And one day randomly I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just apply. If I don't get it, it's fine, but I'll put myself out there. It's whatever. And, I got an alternate and I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to play. Like, there's no chance that people are going to like drop out of this, whatever. July, I get another email that's like, okay, really hold on, because like you might really be playing. And I was like, oh, maybe I should take this seriously. And I still like didn't prepare at all, because I was like, it's not going to happen. Like, I don't want to get my hopes up. And then on the Monday of it, I just got a text. I was like, can you play? And I was like, yeah, why not? And so I had a very little time to prepare anything. And so in those 2 days, I binge watched season 1 just to like have a familiarity with like what this game looks like and how it differs from CBS Survivor. But I knew truly nothing. I knew nothing about LRGs. I didn't know that they were a thing. I didn't know that it was a community. I didn't know that orgs existed. Knew nothing. And so I came in just being like, who are these people? Who are these people I'm going to be spending time with? Like, I want to get to know some people. I assumed everyone would be from the Boston area. Not the case. We had someone from Australia. And so I was really just like out there to like make connections and see people. And the only thing I set for myself, the only 2 things that I set for myself was that I wanted to make the jury. And as part of that, I didn't want to get swap screwed. And one of those things did happen. But I think it was still a great time, and I'm really happy that it all worked out. But it was sort of a cosmic mistake that I ended up playing in the first place. And so I kind of just was like, anything that happens is great and totally fine, because I can't go into this with a big plan.
Yeah, I often wonder if there's any benefit to not having as much time to prepare, because you're not overthinking. You're not playing yourself out of like thinking of all the different strategies and all the things you're going to do. You're kind of going with a little bit more of an open mind, maybe open spirit. So big shout out though to all the alternates out there. These games, rely so heavily on people being willing to jump in last minute. I think any game outside of Outlast Season 1, shout out to that cast. We did not need one single alternate in Season 1. We had 6 in Season 2. We won't talk about that. But like these games, I mean, it was an anomaly that we did not need an alternate in Season 1. It was wild. So every host I talk to, every game I know of has had some sort of alternate need every game. I mean, it's just life, things happen, right? Things happen last minute. People can't do games. And as much as I think people are excited and passionate about it and want to do it, stuff happens, you know? And so alternates are a big lifesaver, because as hosts, we plan everything to the person, to the letter. And so one person being gone or not showing up blows the whole thing up in a lot of ways, right? Especially as you're trying to keep things as even and balanced as possible in as many ways as possible. So this is both a shout out to the alternates and a word of caution to everyone who accepts playing a game. Make sure you show up, or at least give the host as much notice as possible if you can't be there, so they have time to prepare. Awesome. Cool. So we'll mostly focus tonight on kind of the finale and the episodes, the final episode and the rounds that happened in the finale. But I do want to touch on a couple of key things that I think happen in the pre-merge or even up to the finale that I think really help craft your story. And feel free to interject on these things. But Annie, I want to start with you. I think one of the earliest moments is that Outlast Outpost, the opportunity to rank the items, and the storytelling starts for Andy at that moment of kind of what he's going to say and what he's going to say to his tribe. So I'm really curious, Andy, just walk us through kind of that Outlast Outpost, the story you're telling for that, which I believe was that you selected the granola, which we later find out you did not. And then also you're selected to go on the first journey with Sarah, and you opt to open a box, but you have a very elaborate story for your tribe when you get back. So as best as you can, try to summarize kind of what's your thinking as you're doing these things, as you're participating in these elements of the game, and what you're telling your tribe, and or maybe what you're trying to hide.
Yeah. So when it came to the ranking of things, that's another area where my experience the previous weekend kind of informed my approach, where because in that game I was running scared so much, I was like, do I want to get my hands on something so that I can, I'm a big believer in getting your hands on things and then using it to unify people. And, it's sort of selective confession, which I used to some effect later on in the game after I had screwed up left and right. But, I remember I talked with Travis about this after the fact, that I liked how you had set up the choices so that we're ranking things so that there is cover if you want to try to take something and then go back and say that you pick something else, that there's cover. At least it'll last for a little while. Until people start talking and comparing notes, which, Poda had a whole lot of people who were comparing notes, Steph. The number of times that she brought up, even when we got to Wetu, was like, what did you guys order again? That was something I had not yet confessed. And it's like every single time, like if we had a heart rate monitor on me, I'm spiking all over the place. Like, can we just let that go? That was like 5 days ago at this point. But that was my thinking, was get my hands on something. And part of it is, being, and I think I say this in a confessional at some point, when you are an outlier in any way, and age is that for me. And it's like, okay, you need some other avenue in just in case to like bring people around and try to build around. And it's like, you know what? Me just picking tarp or whatever it would have been. I don't think I was intentionally not in the Flint tarp area. I was in the next spot down. So that my thinking was, if I can get something, then I can use it to unify. And then it was the same thing when it came to, the journey, where it's like, okay, I mean, one, not having a whole lot of time to sort of think through. All I knew was that I didn't want, like, it's the double whammy, right? You are the older guy on a tribe that is athletically outmatched. And you are being sent on a journey. So people are going to be thinking, okay, you're away, you might be getting something. It's like, okay, I have to take something and come back and share with the people that I want to share with, so that they know it's like, I'm sharing this with you, not with them, because we need 6 out of 10 for some safety. But by the time I came back, like, I mean, the story I told was bad. Frankly, I didn't have a lot of time to make it up, and it was bad. People weren't buying it, and you could feel it. But I was like, I can't stop telling the story and then tell the real story, because that's not going to work. And so I was just like, okay, I want them focusing on, I had the ability to, like, work with Sarah. Like, they sent us someplace and we got to talk about what we could do to help the tribes. So I was just trying to throw something out there like that, where it's like, you know, no, I did nothing to help that evil other blue tribe because I'm with you. But literally the moment I walked into camp, and it doesn't surprise anybody, I'm sure, but like, I'm a vibe person, and it's like, there were so many walls up already, where it's like, oh, I'm in a whole world of hurt. And so now I need to find people that are willing to hear me share the truth. Because again, when you share the truth after a lie, it can be a powerful thing. There just weren't a lot of avenues in. So I was in a whole lot of trouble very, very early on. And again, largely my own doing. But you know, also just the dynamics of it all, when you're away from camp and people are looking for any sort of target at all, that you're going to come back to some resistance. And because of how I handled it, I came back to a lot.
So Stephanie, I saw you nodding your head. How bad was Andy's story? Like, what was your perspective?
Andy Andy was my number one enemy. My God. Like, right off the bat, Andy, you were cool, right? Like, you were having fun. I think he was the one who volunteered to, like, read the note on the box, and all right, cool, all good. But man, after the big, like, Jacob and Trey lie, right? I caught eyes with Andy in the woods, and I was like, I don't know, I should talk to this guy. Like, I talk to him. I don't know, someone called me. So I was like, hey, that was weird, right? Like, I just looked at Andy and I was like, that was weird. And Andy's like, I saw that. You're good. And I was like, oh, hell no, sir. Like, I have done nothing in this game. Like, I have intentionally done nothing in this game. You've seen nothing. And I had no idea what he meant by that. Like, why? I've done everything I could to go under the radar. And now you're like literally singling me out. Andy, I love you, but I didn't believe you for a minute with the damn granola bars. Like, even for a minute. We broke down every single item while we stood in that line. I'm getting this, you're getting that, you're getting that. We all collectively were like, food is not a priority in a 4-day game. And you were on board. You're like, yeah, no way. And you came back, you're like, I got granola bars. I'm like, bullshit, Andy. You did not get granola bars. So I knew, like, right from the very beginning, Andy was full of it. But I didn't realize he was.
Could I jump in for one quick second? Just to add to this. I mean, you were looking through the filter of, you already didn't trust me, because we were gathering firewood, and so that moment that she's talking about, I had seen Stephanie play Surviving Maine. I had watched that season. A lot of people I know were on it, including you, Justin. And I loved me some Steph. And so when we're getting the wood, I was like, this is somebody I want to build a bridge with. And so I ended up saying, hey, I saw you. And that immediately she was like, she bolted the other direction. Like I was accusing her of something, when it was like, and it wasn't until we were on Wetu and we had a quiet moment where I got to come clean on everything, where I got to say, by the way, the rest of that sentence was, I saw you in Surviving Maine and I think you're amazing and I want to play with you. But never had a chance to get any of that out because I handled it.
2 nights.
Yeah, I handled it like a jackass. But I was trying, and I had the exact opposite result. So.
Great. Rachel, I know you're on the T. Are you able to answer a question if I ask you? How are you feeling?
How bad is the audio?
It's a little rocky. We'll hold off. I'll skip that. And then I muted myself. Perfect. So I do want to ask for those, I'll ask Peter and Hannah, for those on the Nebi tribe, just curious, like your initial thoughts, anybody that stood out for you in those initial hours on Nebi that really you locked eyes with early, that you felt connected to, anybody that stood out or maybe tried to take the lead? Peter?
Yeah, so and right away, Matt and Meg were the two people that were there when I got there. And so right away, I mean, I had no idea what I was walking into. I was like, are they on my tribe? Are they on a different tribe? I have no idea what's going on. But I got good vibes from them.
To Andy's earlier point, right? So we initially in the casting email, we're like, hey, if you're on Nebi, you can wear a blue shirt. You don't have to, but you can. If you're on Poda, you can wear a yellow shirt. You don't have to if you won't want to. All of Nebi is wearing blue, and then Poda comes in with all the different, like every color in the universe. So I was like, oh, it is very interesting to see how the two different tribes Nebi gelled very well and performed very well, and they were kind of unified, whereas Poda felt maybe a little bit more scrambled. So kind of like art imitating life in some way, I guess. Sorry, Peter, but that's just, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So right away I was like, okay, good vibe from the two of them. That's nice. And we get to camp, and the first person I actually talked to in the game was Rachel. And so I was like immediately like, okay, Rachel and I are locked in. And then Hannah and Matt joined us as we were walking up to the thing. And I was like, this feels like a nice 4. I love this. This is great. And so I felt very in with that. And then Matt pulled Jeff and I aside at some point and was like, the 3 of us. And I was like, great, sure, why not? Absolutely. And so things just kind of happened. And I think everyone on Nebi really got along with each other. We spent nobody went off to do other things. And, Hannah and Rachel, feel free to fill in any gaps that I'm missing. But I felt like everyone just hung around main camp and talked with each other about, what our strengths and weaknesses and challenges were and what we should do so that we can win a challenge. And we built this little nook called the living room. We called it the living room. That was not in the main camp. And we just did everything kind of together. And so we were very, very kumbaya. But even within that, I still felt like I was making little connections myself, specific connections with people. So that felt good. But happy to hear what Hannah and Rachel have to say too.
Yeah, Hannah, anybody that stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is a symptom of also being a first-time player, but I just let people approach me rather than approaching other people. And I don't know if that's a smart strategic move or not, but the people that approached me initially were Jeff, Rachel, and Tim. And so those are the initial people I ended up having connections with. But similarly to Peter, there was nobody that I felt strongly against. So I was kind of nervous about when we went to tribal, what would be the reasoning to vote anybody out? Because there's nobody I felt I necessarily wouldn't want to be aligned with.
So that was going to be my next little sneaky question that I didn't ask you guys. Had Nebi gone to tribal the first or second round, who do you think? And I know now it's a little bit biased because you've seen episodes, you know how it all played out. But who do you think, if you can think back to those early days, those early hours, who do you think would have been the first vote?
I think it's between Tim and Amelia, but I think Tim ultimately.
Tim, okay. Rachel also in the chat. She agrees it would have been Tim. All right, Hannah, how about for you? What do you think?
I guess I would also say Tim, but I wouldn't have wanted it to be Tim. Not that I wanted somebody else, but he told me about his advantage when he got it, which isn't shown because it's not really relevant. But I felt like I had a good thing going with him. I didn't have anything bad going with anybody else either. So.
All right. Awesome. All right, Rachel, I'll skip your premerge question for now until we get you off the tee. So we'll jump a little bit ahead. We get through the first 2 challenges. We see Trey and Val go, and then we get to our swap. And this is where the game really shakes up. And for a majority of this group, really where we start, where I see the majority alliance, and really the story for the rest of the game kind of starts to come together with the swap and the creation of Wet 2. So Stephanie, I'm curious, being in the minority, just in the overall game numbers, right? It was 10-8 at the swap. You're dealt a fairly decent hand being in a majority on the swap, which I think is a different experience than you had in Surviving Maine. So just talk to me a little bit about kind of your initial swap experience and your thoughts on kind of early Wet 2.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, Justin, because it was the definition of swap screwed in Maine, and it's like the story that played out with Kira and Matt, and also on the other side with Alex and Jacob. Sorry, guys. It's a lot of names. So when I hit the green tribe, okay, at that point, I think who pulled it first? Maya. I was like, okay, I already liked Maya. Me and Maya were good, right? Was it Maya?
Maya was the first Wet 2, yeah.
Okay, Maya pulled it, and then was it Chelsea? I don't know. Either way, like my people were going up and pulling green, and like I was like, oh my god. And then Andy pulls a green, and I'm like, oh my god. but it's okay. And then Peter, who I had like learned to love just from that one carrot in the box challenge with our Taylor Swift connection, which I have to say, like, we did that way before Survivor 46, like, period. Let it be known, everybody. We played in July. Let that be known. What was the question?
Just your initial thoughts of like Wet 2 and
yeah. So and I know that like Peter and Rachel and Andy can also speak to this, but we didn't get a lot of screen time because we were winning so much. But our tribe,
and we didn't get a lot of supplies, and Peter's still mad about not having a machete.
We never got a machete. That's it. That's all I have to say.
I'm with you, Peter. Like we were literally we had to start our camp from scratch. Do we have a type, or do we have to earn our type? We earned our type. Yeah, we had nothing. And we won, and we won, and we won. And I would very much, maybe only Hannah can talk about this, or when everybody gets back together. Did we actually win? Let's talk about that. Because it's still up for debate, literally, even after all this. No, I was thrilled, and we really got close. I had been playing a game, I thought, where I was keeping my cards like really close to my chest. When we were on POTA, I wasn't taking any risks. I wasn't getting to know anybody too deeply. And on Wet 2, I think it was like Peter who was like, hey, let's like get to know each other. And I was like, oh, I didn't know we were going to do this. Okay, let's do this. And I'm so glad we did, though, because I realized how much like I love you guys all. You guys are amazing. And then once I realized Andy was brilliant and not a crazy person out to get me, like we sat around and strategized in a way that, I don't know, like for me, I felt like I was on the top of the world when we just sat around in all of our glory with our food, getting to know each other, like strategizing the game, playing out every possible scenario because we weren't at Tribal. So we had time to talk about X, Y, Z, plan A, B, C, and D. We did like, I don't know. It was beautiful. I'll let somebody else take the mic about Wet 2 because that's it.
Yeah, on the other side of things, Peter, I wanted to get your kind of initial thoughts on the other end, right? You are in the minority. You come into a Wet 2 kind of 2-4. And after, being so dominant on Nebby, what's that experience like kind of being on the flip side?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. I mean, to be perfectly honest, it stinks to play from the bottom, as I did for a lot of the game, I think. Yeah, I mean, instantly it was like, well, this sucks. I love everyone on Wet 2, but like, especially on that tribe, it was like, we're not going to win a challenge. It just like, we were not the tribe that had the like strong challenge threats on it. That was Nebby and the new Nebby. And so it was just like so obvious to me that we were going to lose one. And it was also so obvious to me that I was going to be the one that suffered for it. Even if it was like tied between Rachel and I for whatever reason, that like on a revote, it would be me. I really thought that was what it was. And so even though we as a whole group were strategizing together, especially later when we're talking about when the merge comes, what we were going to do to be a 6 and have power as a 6, it just like, it was always there in the back of my mind. Like I was going to go home. if we lost. And it doesn't change the fact that like I had a great 24 hours with these 6 group of people. You don't see any of the conversations, but like I think we all got like really close with each other, and like staying up late with the fire, just like I think everyone was very in on that. I think that was very real. But I felt like if we had gone, I would go, and I think that really colored my perception of the Wetu dynamics for the rest of the game. And I think it was right too. I think it's sort of naive to think, okay, but we're going to win every tribal challenge together, and make it together, and that's going to be great. Because if we didn't, like, I really think it was going to be me, and I didn't see any inroads there to be made. I tried with Andy. I tried to make a 3 of Rachel, Andy, and I, but it wasn't coming across. I think Andy, we had because Nebby had kind of been like, if we send Andy a bunch of times, he might want to work with us and work with us at the merge. And I was always kind of like, I don't know. And when I had said that to you when we were on green, you were like, yeah, it put me in a real hot seat though. And I was like, oh, that's not great. And so my immediate damage control was like, but I didn't want to send you both times. I wanted to send someone else. I wanted to change it up. And I just, without having a third in with Rachel and I, there was nothing to do. There's just, the numbers don't work. They can do a 2-2-2 split on us, and a revote sends one of us home, and it just doesn't matter. Even if Rachel played an idol for herself, it didn't matter.
Steph or Andy, can either of you corroborate if Peter would have been the one to go? Do you think that's what would have happened?
Well, interestingly, and Chelsea can speak to this, we had talked about what happens if we go, just so that we can talk it through. And this is before, like, I had a conversation with Chelsea, and I'll talk about the Chelsea, Rachel, me thing in a second. But this was before I had sort of the come to Jesus with Steph, where I sort of shared everything. But it was, and Peter and I have talked about this a little bit, where I see that as one of my failings in the game, is not making him feel more included in the 6. Like, that's both on a human level and on a game level. You never let anyone feel like they're on the bottom, right? And I was so busy trying to scramble from my earlier asinine choices to try to pull something together that I wasn't thinking about Peter enough, frankly. But because no one should feel that alone. Like, I know we skipped past Val and Trey pretty quickly, but like, Val was the person who first really talked to me when I was on the outs and looking like I was gone. It was my first inroads, and you need that in this game, the person who will talk with you and make you feel included, and you're forever grateful for that. And so, like, I frustrated again. Could I go back and change some things? Even if we had lost and you were the boot, certainly didn't want you to feel like you were on that outs, because like you said, things got real that night, and I live for that stuff. Like I keep saying, like, I've been around this game so long, and tribes don't come together like this every time. It's pretty rare because people are always worried about one another. We had the advantage of winning, and also the power of confession, where I got to pull aside POTAs and say, like, look, I lied about this. I lied about this. Here's this thing I have, and I really want to work with you. And it ended up leading to just sort of open confession around the fire that night, where people are just bonding and connecting without a whole lot of pressure. But then when there was that challenge where people went down to tribal council, and so 3 of us are still back there, we got to bond even more in a totally different way, where it's like we went idol hunting together, because and it was fun, and in a very stressful game, when you can connect on a real level and have some fun while you're doing it, it's pretty magical. But at one point, I know, like with Chelsea originally, I think it was her, was saying, like, I don't know about Peter. I might want to actually go with Peter over Rachel, but then it moved to another place. So you weren't in the crosshairs right away, Peter, but then you were. and you felt it, and we shouldn't have let you feel that, again, on a human level, but also a game level. So. And just to be clear, I think the world of Peter, and we had chats around the fire that night, like trying to keep that fire alive. And I mean, I spoke about it to him, and I think I talked to you about it during the game, maybe even in a confessional, but like, that's one of the coolest moments for me, irrespective of the fact that he won the game, but just watching him feed the fire at night, lost in thought and trying to think his way out of this situation. Is the sign of someone who loves the game, knows the game, and is in real time getting better at the game. And I love seeing it. It was amazing.
All right, I think we've got Rachel back, so we'll jump backwards in time a little bit. Thank you, Rachel, for being so flexible and jumping back on. So my first question for you is just the first few minutes of the game, you are the one to snag the clue right off the box at Nevi. You know, I don't think you watched the first season, so I don't think you knew that those were there last season or anywhere on the box. So
of course not. Why would I do that?
It's kind of funny that you were the one to find it and grab it so quickly. So I'm just curious, what was that moment like? Did you just happen to look down and see it, or were you actually looking for it? Like, what was that like for you?
Pure luck, and then just adrenaline and trying to figure out the right moment to take a grab. And luckily, I found a good time and took it at the right time.
And Rachel, Peter, Hannah, I assume neither of you saw her grab it. You did not know that clue was there, existed, any of that, right?
No, I definitely looked though, because I knew that it happened in season 1, but I didn't see it. So,
all right. And Rachel, I don't know if you watched the other roundtables, but Val is very angry about the fact that your idol was so easy to find and the POTA idol was so hard to find. But you know, you find that idol pretty early on, and we actually got not the best footage. We got a little footage of you finding it and waltzing it right back into camp in your pocket and putting it right in your bag in front of everybody. Talk a little bit about that experience. What was that like to find it and to kind of have to do it in plain sight?
Yeah, I feel like the clue gave me a pretty good idea of where it would be. It wasn't just a reach around the tree. It definitely took a little bit more effort than that, but it was probably easier. But once I got it, I knew what it probably was, but like I didn't want to read it yet or take any more time. So I really abused the confessional times to like have that time to read and stuff like that, which is why I'm always eating my clues on camera, because I wait until I'm on camera to read it. Because then I'm alone, which is great. But I'm kind of the opposite of Andy. I don't see advantages as a way to bond with people. I think it's for me. I'm not telling anyone. I'm totally like Hunter of this season about it. Like, unless I need to tell you in order to make my plan work, I'm not going to tell anyone. Doesn't matter how much of my number one you are. So that was pretty sweet to have that in my pocket day one and know that nobody saw me and nobody suspected it, because then I went first in the picking challenge thing and I put Gatorade last. So nobody really suspected me, which was good.
So I'll draw on something you just said, right, about kind of keeping advantages to yourself. You then also get the clue in your swap buff for the idol at Wet 2, and you do decide to share that. So talk me through that, kind of the differences there of why you decided to share that one, kind of having that mentality of advantages being just for you.
Yeah, so you didn't give us a machete, as previously mentioned. So I was pretty positive that we weren't going to stay at that campsite because, like, we couldn't have wood. We couldn't make a lean-to, whatever. Like, we didn't have a machete, so we weren't going to stay. So whatever time we had, we needed to make it count. And I did plenty of looking myself, and it was not as easy as the first one. So I was like, if I'm not finding this and I know exactly where it is, then someone else must have it. And I saw there was a string behind Stephanie, so I was suspicious about that string. And I was like, if this is going to be my squad, then someone needs to find this idol and tell me who has it, because either they have it right now and they're going to mess around and then tell me that they got it, whatever. great, at least then I know. Or if nobody has it, still at least I know who has it because I can't find it. So yeah, it was really just the fact that we didn't have a lot of time, and I was already on edge about feeling like I didn't trust them. So the only way for them to prove their trust to me was to show me that they have the idol, because I know that it's a fresh idol.
If I can speak to that. So when the challenge was happening at Tribal Council, Steph, Maya, and I went idol hunting. This was before we had your clue. And there were just some spots looking around Production Brain. I was like, does anyone mind if I go and check? There's this one tree. It's like, I have to go check it. And they were like, yeah, we should be checking for idols. Didn't find anything then, but I talked with Steph and Maya from the production point of view. I was like, if there is an idol around here, it's going to be based off of, one of your landmarks, water, the fire pit, whatever it is. And you're going to go, it's not going to be on the path so that people don't accidentally find it. So you need to go a little ways in, but you don't want anyone climbing a tree because legal liability. You don't want to be too far off the path because you're spelunking and there might be hornet's nest to step into like there were at POTA. And so I walked them through all of that. And then when Rachel gives us the whole camp the clue, that next morning, I was like, I'll confession. Here's a new one. Here's a new confession. I wanted to go look for it by my damn self, but I couldn't get away. And so I was just like, everybody, do you mind if we go search now? And I was talking through like, okay, so it's off the path. It's near the water. Go in here. You turn around and there it was. And so it was just one of those fun moments where it's like Production Brain actually helped. It didn't get in the way, where it was just like, yeah, no, you take 12 steps in, turn around, look at the branches at eye line. And there was this really small brown package. And it's like, no wonder you didn't find it, Rachel. It was next to impossible. But it was just a fun moment and then of course came back to, I just showed it to everybody and had it kicking around in the pocket from that point on.
Yeah, the other thing, which I know this is ridiculous, but I already had an idol. So I already felt like I had that backing. And again, ridiculous, but I don't need two idols. Like, I want to play the game and I want to be good at it. And I found more idols. It was honestly an accident. I said sorry while I picked it up. So I was like, sure, someone else could have this second idol. As long as I know who it is, then we're good. And like I said, like it earned me trust in that moment. But every time Andy played it wrong, I lost trust in him. I'm like, why did you play it? Like, I thought we were cool. So there's really like a lot of baggage that comes with it, whether you use it correctly or not.
It's true. And just to be clear, the times that I did play it, my name had been kicked around. There's footage that my name was out there and I was not being given that information by you. And so it was like, okay, what can I trust? I'd rather burn an idol and make sure I have the trust. Like there's one voting booth confessional where I talk about how I could be burning this idol for nothing. But if I get to the other side of this vote, then I have found my people. And so it was a dumb play, but it was a play for a reason. But I hadn't thought through the fact that it would fray at your trust in me. So I apologize.
All right, let's get away from Wetu for a bit. God, they're sucking up all the air. Hannah, come over to you. I think the most kind of significant kind of moment of the pre-merge on the Nebby side is post-swap, because you didn't go to trials before swaps, and it is the iconic Jacob vote where Matt tosses out your name, tries to cover it up, tries to backtrack, and I think it truly does help shape the rest of the season. So talk me through what that's like. We obviously see a lot of the aftermath on camera, but I'm just curious if there's anything we missed or just like what your thought process was going through that kind of time of the game. And is there anything you regret or anything you would do differently in that round now, kind of having the time to process it?
Okay, there are a lot of things in that question. But first, I just want to rewind really quickly and tell a 15-second story about how Peter could have been even more swap screwed. Because when we took the buffs out of the bags, the last two people were me and Rachel. And I got Nebby and Rachel got Wetu. And I remember thinking, if I get Wetu, I'm just going to mutiny myself away from Wetu and go to Nebby 2.0, which would have left Peter all alone on Wetu. So it could have been worse, Peter.
Yeah, that darn mutiny advantage. I was very much hoping that the right person would get that in the swap situation to make it a big moment. But yeah, that's a great side story. So now tell me about the Jacob round specifically.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to cover the things that like haven't been talked to death already about it. The main thing is that I had no idea anything was going on until right when production said like, hey, let's get in line to go to tribal. Me and Meg got in line and everybody else was scrambling. And I thought it was a very obvious vote that we were doing Jacob. And Jeff kept saying, Hannah, can I talk to you? And of course, again, me trying to follow the directions of production. I was like, we can't talk anymore. We're going to tribal. So bad on me again for trying to follow the directions all the time. And then I turned to Meg and I was like, why does Jeff want to talk to me? Like, does he think Jacob has an idol? Like, what's happening? And Meg was just like, no, I think he's just really paranoid. So that ended up being a situation where when eventually the tribal ended and I got a vote from Jacob, even though Jacob had said he was voting for Meg, Jeff grabbed me and he was like, Hannah, they're trying to get you out. They've turned against you. And so it just was chaos because I couldn't tell between Jeff, Meg, and Matt who was telling me the truth because I heard 3 different stories. And even though Meg actually did not, like, she said, no, we're not going to vote Hannah. And she would have, when we get to the tribes, in the merge, she would have voted Matt out. And she was mad at Matt for that. I had the memory of her looking me in the eyes and lying to me because she knew that Matt had thrown out my name and didn't tell me, which was probably for a good reason. She didn't want to freak me out. And like, she was like, let's just let this blow over. Like, it's totally valid. And I'm understanding now of why she did that. But in the moment I was like, wait, all of these people have lied to me. So my mental state just went to, I don't know who I can trust out of these 3. Let me just get rid of all of them and switch over to these other people. And that is the 3 people that went next: Meg, then Jeff, then Matt.
Why didn't you say that at Final Tribal, Hannah? Come on.
I know, it's like what Andy said, like your brain is just shuts off on the last day.
Oh my God, Rachel, I was thinking that and I was like, I'm just not going to say it. I don't want to pour salt in the wound. I'm glad you said it.
Can I just say that like that tribal set like me specifically up to like just completely fall off because it sets up at the mergatory thing, the 2 sides of being Meg and Matt and Hannah of the split and Nebby, and I was definitely on the side of Meg and Matt, and Rachel was obviously on the side of Hannah, and so that set up for one of my close people to go, and then it sets up Matt to be on bad footing with Wetu moving forward because he votes against them. And so it set me up not well. And we can get into that maybe later. But
I did keep Matt for you though. But I obviously,
Yes.
had to choose my number 1 over yours. But we
Yes.
kept our number 2, even though
Right.
Hannah did not want that.
Yeah.
Wait, can I just add one very
of
quick thing related to that? Just because I think that was like a pivotal moment and a mistake for me, how when Rachel came and said like, we can keep Matt or Meg, but I would prefer to keep Matt. I wanted to be seen as like a good alliance member to her because I felt most loyal towards Rachel. And like in retrospect, I realized like, why would I not push to get somebody out that had just been throwing my name out? So I don't know. We haven't gone to our regrets yet, but maybe that's something I would do differently in the future.
All right, I do want to kind of wrap up. I know there's probably a lot we didn't talk about from pre-merge. There's obviously a lot of game there, but we could be here all night if we keep talking pre-merge, right? So I do want just one quick go around the horn really quick. Is there anything else, just one moment from the pre-merge that stands out to you that we didn't talk about? Anything that you want to get off your chest pre-merge time? We'll go backwards this time in order. So we'll start with Peter, but anything else pre-merge that you want to get off your chest? Or something that we didn't catch in the episodes. Peter?
Yeah, so there's a couple things, and one is just like I think a lot of the social connections that I had both on Nebby and on Web2 just weren't captured because we were winning, and that's whatever. So that wasn't there. But then a moment that I think was kind of important for me, just thinking about Web2, was at one point Stephanie kind of like threatened me, threatened I think Rachel and I, and she was like,
"Hey, join the club, Peter.
If you guys don't go with us at the merge, we're not going to vote for you on the jury." And I was like, oh, this makes me really feel like I want to work with this group of people. Absolutely, yes. I feel so in right now. Like let's do it. I'm so in. And that wasn't captured at all. But it was just another one of those things that I was like, I don't know if that's what you want to say, if you want me to like really be 100%. But I totally get it. I mean, like they needed us. Well, totally, but it's just not a warm and fuzzy like thing.
Stephanie, that was another example of you toning down your game and being more calm and chill, right? Yeah. Hannah, how about for you? Anything pre-merge? And again, we don't see a ton. It's actually interesting. We don't see a ton of you and Peter pre-merge because of how much you both won, right? So it was interesting as an editor of the story, trying to show that you both had good connections. That we try to show Peter. A lot of people like Peter, a lot of people like Hannah, Rachel likes Hannah, but it's hard to tell your stories from the beginning because you win so much. But anything from the pre-merge that we missed?
Yeah, I just really quickly want to defend me saying that I don't know if we need fire. In my defense, it was really hot out. So I was thinking, okay, we don't need fire for warmth. I didn't know it was going to get cold. You gave us water, like drinkable water, so we didn't need to boil it. We had a flashlight. So I was like, I don't think we need any fire for anything. This seems like just like a gimmick. So that's why I was like confused about choosing the flint or the fire starter kit. And then the second thing, which probably has no bearing on anything, but when people found Rachel's half-eaten note, I'm pretty sure that was on the way back from the Nebby strength running challenge. And I remember like all five of us finding it, trying to figure out what it was, blaming Sarah, and then us frantically trying to make fire as fast as we could to hide the evidence. So I don't know if I'm having some sort of like weird Shazam memory where I think I was there and I wasn't, but every story it says it was Rachel, Bartley, and Tim, and I think me and Jeff were there too, but I guess
yeah,
no one
probably.
That.
And I kind of unintentionally skipped over that part of my questions for Rachel while she was on the tee, but so the story I heard was Bartley and Tim was kind of off camera, but I think maybe the two of you might have been I think it was on the walk back from that challenge. But Rachel, do you have any initial or additional thoughts on that moment?
Recollection of who was there. So sorry, I can't help your memory, Hannah. But that, unfortunately, everyone's giving me way too much credit for this move. It was a complete accident. I didn't know it was mine. I genuinely thought it might be Sarah's. I sold that it was Sarah's so hard because I truly believed it. So I wasn't an evil mastermind pushing it off myself. I just really thought that I ate the whole thing. I didn't think there was even a possibility I dropped a piece.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think I might have mentioned this on a previous roundtable, but Jess comes up to me at some point and she's like, I got footage of Rachel eating the clue. She drops a piece. It's great. I got a little footage of the dropped piece. And I remember, I think I've told this story before, walking back from Nebby Camp at one point and seeing it and almost picking it up and putting it in my pocket, being like, oop, that shouldn't be there. And I was like, that could have drastically affected the game, right? If I had to touch anything. So I'm glad I didn't do that. But yeah, it was really funny to kind of hear that dynamic and then kind of see the footage of what happened and then to chat with you a little bit about it and realize that you generally didn't know it was yours. So
I'm the one that found it too. So like if I thought it was me, I could have picked it up slyly and like nothing would have happened. But I just didn't think it was me.
Rachel, while we're on you, anything else from premerge that you wanted to chat about?
I really just believe that you have to vote with people to get their trust. And as much as blue people were blue strong, I wasn't strong on anyone except for whoever I was clicking with, because I didn't get to prove anything with anyone. And as great as it is to never go to tribal and never have to vote, I was kind of bored. I want to play, I want to strategize, I want to make alliances and stuff. So the second I got that opportunity to make a difference and sway votes and stuff, I hit the ground running. And I did click better with that yellow tribe than I did with the blue tribe. We were 100% kumbaya. Let's all get water together. Let's pee next to each other. Like, there was no chance to make real relationships or talk real strategy on blue. So I was very disconnected from them. And yellow was ready to go. They've done this before. They want to chat. We did like speed dating with each other. And Andy was like, I love you. I'm going to take you to the end. We're together. And I was like, great. Then you're my number one right now. And I knew I had Hannah on the other side. And I hoped that if I was in trouble, she would have used her advantage. And I had my idol and the idol that Andy had. So I knew that I had a lot of safety nets. But having that conversation with the yellows really solidified Andy with me and kind of solidified Chelsea. I knew that final 3 was more of Andy's idea than it was of Chelsea's, but I love Chelsea, so I'll take it as far as it can go. And then Steph and I are gay women in Boston, and I like that, and she's just easy to get along with. And I was like, I don't know if I trust you in this game, but I like you a lot, and I want to work with people that I like a lot. So that was really helpful to start with that. And I was just excited for the merge because I knew I wasn't going to keep winning.
Yeah, something we've learned so far, you definitely need fire. So future players, fires are good, fire's priority. And don't win every challenge. Go to tribal and prove your loyalty with some voting, That's great. Andy, what about you? Anything else pre-merge you want to chat about?
Just to address that, what Rachel was talking about with Chelsea, Rachel, me, final 3. Unsurprisingly, we get on this tribe, Wetu, and it's new life for me. And I was trying to pull people together so that at least I could have 3, and not feel like, I was expendable because I had felt that way up until that point. But I created a bit of once Steph and I started getting closer, it's like, okay, creating a bit of a mess here. I really do want all 6, but it's like rubber's going to meet the road at some point if this holds together. But, a 6 can't hold together because there aren't 6 people in a final 2. So it's like, I'll delay that for now. But it was the first time that I had felt tied in and connected where, that's normally what I do. That's my approach to the game. And that's what I would have wanted to do on POTA if I hadn't made a mess of things and had people putting walls up, is like pull people together into your small group, try to find as many Wii players as you can. But the other thing I wanted to address, just because I know it came up in the other roundtables, sort of the worry about connections that people have in the game. And I know that you and I talked about it, Justin, that I'm a little harder to cast around just because I've been around things a bit. But I've tried to assure everybody in the cast and other people who, from previous, from season 1 and people who might be looking forward to playing in season 3, it's everything's a double-edged sword. And like, okay, so Sarah was at production for Can You Survive? It was very one-sided. She listened to me talk about my game. I didn't know her, but she ends up picking me to go on the journey or playing a role in that. And Aussie Matt, who I adore to no end, right out of the gate, we're walking up, I was trying to figure out, he had applied to play an SC. So I had been a part of a group talking to him. I didn't know him. But I tried to find out, like, have you played one of these before? And he was very evasive. It's like, okay, Yeah, I'm glad that like this is not going to be. I don't want connections to be a thing. I want to go in pure, and I want to meet up with and build relationships with people that come from an authentic place. I knew Amelia existed because she is now married to the guy who does videography for SC, but I had never met her before. And Bartley had applied the previous year, but I had just seen him on my computer screen. And then Rachel, and this is why I'm building up to this. Rachel, I was aware of her. She had played in our game. I had probably done her confessional at some point. But like when we first had a chance to talk in the game, she thought I was John Fatea, the guy who runs SC. I'm his right-hand man. And so it was like, okay, so we're not going to be relying on this SC connection thing because you don't even know who I am. Like we can just chat and build a relationship from there. And I would like to think, Rachel, that I was that person laughing at your snide aside jokes. Like that's your sense of humor is brilliant and funny, and that's where the desire for that connection came from when we were putting things together on Wetu. But again, then Steph entered the picture and things got complex from there.
Go ahead, Rachel.
The Slack comments is definitely a way that I make alliances, but you also mentioned Amelia, so I also want to shout her out for a sec. A big way that I made alliances in Survival Challenge 2 is cuddling, and I feel strong about that. I cuddled with Amelia, and then I cuddled hard with Hannah, and I feel like that is important, and that's why I don't think she would have been gone day one. It would have been Tim, because we cuddled, so I was sold.
Yeah, I mean, Andy, we did chat about it. I think it's only going to get harder and harder to cast you, right? So I felt like this was the season where there was enough kind of tangential, what I thought were pretty periphery, if that's a word, relationships. But the one I was most concerned about was you and Rachel, right? Because that I knew you had a pretty, at least had met in person kind of relationship, right? But I was banking on the fact that Rachel would not remember who you were. Like that was like all of us on production, all of us on casting were like, Rachel won't even remember who Andy is. We're fine.
I did recognize him and I knew it was Survival Challenge, but once you weren't like, this is John, I was like, well, I don't know who he is then.
Yeah. And I think I said this before, I was so mad that I found out Sarah was on production for Can You Survive? Because I was like, no, and I knew you might recognize some people from applications, but it's only going to get harder. So I think if we obviously wanted to have you on the cast, and this was the right year to do it. And those little minor connections, you hadn't played with anybody, and I wouldn't say any of you were best friends. Those were the big things that we wanted to avoid. And I think we found out later that Val and Tim had met at some random party as well before the season, but I wasn't aware of that, I think, until the season actually happened. So yeah, we did try hard to minimize those connections, but it's hard. I mean, it's hard. The community is only so big, and at the very least, right? Like Andy, a connection we don't talk about is we talk about it, but not in this way. Is you saw Stephanie play, right? Like, so you have insight into her game. You know who she is, and even those minor things can impact the game, right? Positively and negatively. So, Steph, how about for you? Any kind of last little moments of pre-merge you want to talk about?
I mean, I you know what I kind of want to talk about, and it's like it takes it from pre-merge into the merge. But two things. One was
good.
What's that? It will be a good segue. Okay, good. One thing was Maya. I want to talk about Maya just because Maya went into this game, as we know now, right, from the roundtables and from her confessionals, that she had played games before. But she went in as like this, I'm just here to have a good time, with her like Disney princess voice. And she's just like, if I can just make the final, I'd be so happy. And like, all right, like cute, Maya, like we like you. You're cute. I enjoy spending time with you, but I did not view her as a strategic alliance. I just liked Maya, and I didn't trust her strategy in the same way that I trusted Chelsea and I trusted Andy and I trusted Rachel. In that way, Peter, I love you, but like you weren't part of my super strong alliance. And Maya for me was just kind of like my friend, and we've talked about this since the game. you know, maybe that was a strategy that worked for some people, but it worked against her with me, because if I had known Maya had played these games and is involved in this, you know, this strategy talk, like I would have really relied on her more. We would have been able to do more things, but I just thought she was here for a good time. And the other thing that I feel like didn't get shown a lot was my relationship with Rachel. Like Rachel and I don't know. I considered Rachel like one of my number ones. Well, Chelsea was my number one. She left. And then it was like Andy was, you know, right here. But Rachel was my girl when it came to strategy. Like everything was hectic. And then we would just find a moment. And maybe this is, I don't know, part of our strategy, Rachel. I don't even know. We weren't like super in our faces of being like tight. Like we weren't open to everybody that me and you were talking about every single move in this game. But before every tribal, like you and I touched base, everything that we did, we ran by each other. And I felt like you were that link to blue for me. And I don't know if I was that link to yellow because all that was left of yellow was there. But yeah, I think a lot of me and Rachel's strategy talk was never shown because we did it quickly. And then we like, you know, took care of business after that. So Rachel was like a huge ally through the game for me, which is why it killed me so much when she wrote my name down. And then there's your segue, Justin. So go right ahead.
Great. Stephanie, you are sounding a little bit like Jeff, though, with all these number ones. I just want to put that out there. You know?
No. No, it was Chelsea. It was very clearly Chelsea. And then it was Andy. And then it was Andy and Rachel. But always Andy.
I'm just kidding. All right. So we are going to kind of leap forward to the finale. But what I will say is if there are things that happened kind of merge to finale that you want to weave into questions about the finale, we can do that. But we've already been on for almost an hour and a half. And it's getting late for some of us, right, Steph? So I want to make sure we wrap this up. But one thing I do want to point out, and I guess I'll ask very briefly, if you can answer it briefly, is that Earn the Merge really comes down to the rock draw, right? So it's a rock draw between Rachel and Peter going to make that vote. Peter, I'm curious, had you been the one to draw the rock, do you think anything would have been different? Do you think you would have fought to save Meg? Do you think you could have talked Hannah off the ledge? Like, what do you actually think would have happened had you gone?
Yeah, so there've been a lot of like Peter would never have voted Meg out, but I wanted Rachel to go because the way that Jeff and Hannah had talked to me at that challenge, it was like, okay. And then just coming into tribal and being like, okay, who's not here? And so who's over there? I was like, okay, so it's going to be Hannah, Matt, Meg, and then 3 Wetu. And I knew that Wetu had to get me through the merge. Like the first couple of votes in the merge. My plan was always work with Wetu the first couple times and then flip and then get to the end after flipping. And so I needed them to be on my side. And it's immediately terrible for me if I'm the one that goes and votes out Meg or Matt or Hannah or whatever. It puts me in terrible position no matter who goes, because then Nebby thinks that it's like, why did Peter specifically do that? Even if I get props from Wetu. So I wanted Rachel to go, and I knew that Rachel was going to do Meg. I knew she wasn't going to do Matt because she didn't want to start shit with me. And if I had gone, I wouldn't have done Hannah because I didn't want to start shit with her. And so that kind of left Meg as the one. I think if I had gone, there's a chance that I would have done Matt, because if I had known that Meg was like very anti-Matt and what Matt had done, I might have just been like, okay, let's cut that loss, build with Meg, and have Meg and Hannah be the like 2 people that come through. I love Matt and I love Meg, but I think that it was never going to be a Wetu. It just wasn't.
All right. Cool. I think the only other thing that I want to make sure we touch on that's merged before the finale is, Andy, to come to you about the subway trip and your choices for the subway trip, because I do think that is a hot item. So talk me through a little bit. I mean, you talk a little bit in the episode. No one should win that challenge, and you got to be just very specific about who you're picking and why, and all of that. We see how much it affects Maya. So talk to me a little bit through anything we might have missed, or any kind of ramifications from that we don't see.
Yeah. My thinking, once, I was immediately knew there would be choices to make, that Chelsea was going to be, part of why I was fighting so hard was the fact that she had been suffering in the weather and the cold, and it was like, if I want to help my alliance member, if I want to just help this person get through these moments, then I want to fight to win this thing so that I can get her out of the rain and get her warm. And so she's the first one I mentioned. And then it was Rachel, and it's, one, because we had a final three, but also what I told, I'm a big believer in these games. It's faux-authentic, where it's like, it's both genuine and authentic, but also a bit, manufactured, in that, I wanted to bring Rachel, or when I explained to Maya why I brought Rachel, it was both real and not, in that it's like, I want people to know that Rachel's with us, that trying to pull her away from the middle, perhaps, if I could, to show that she's committed, but also to confirm that these three are tight. And then it came down to Stephanie and Maya, and part of my brain was saying, Steph can keep things on lockdown back at camp, but I cannot not have her here. Like, we had our, our come together, and it's like, okay, she has to be one of these four. And I mean, I knew what I would be dealing with when I came back, but also building on what you said, Steph, about Maya, not only was she sort of playing herself as being, sort of along for the ride and trying to hide how strategic she was very effective in that, because we didn't see her that way. But it was also, as we saw in her confessional when she was on Wetu, I was not in her plans at all. She mentioned everybody in Wetu except for me. And she had been that way in the original POTA, smartly. Like, lots of people were putting up walls, but I could get nothing. Like, people like, my job back at the beginning was, okay, I'm in trouble, but Aussie Matt, I can tell he feels guilty about it. Chelsea was one of the first to warm up. Val was the first one to build a bridge. Like, okay, there's inroads here. Maya was a wall. And it was like, you know what? I'm bringing these four, and whatever price I have to pay, that's fine. I'm the one who made the decisions. And I think everybody who knows, who's aligned with me, like, if I have to take the bullet for my people, I will take the bullet, and I'll take the heat. And I knew I was up for that really awkward conversation with Maya when I got back. But it was that awkward moment where she's like, am I in your final three? And I stumble on it, because it's like, I wanted to say what I can't say, which is, I'm not in yours. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, so it was just, that was my thinking behind it, it was relationships, both in the strategic sense, but also in I'm becoming friends with these people, and they're awesome and they're wonderful. And I have an opportunity to spend some time away from this game, and be real, and I'm a dad and a teacher, and like, seeing these people eat and be happy and smiling and out of the rain brought me so much joy. And the drive back, I was feeling like you can feel the game descending back on you, and you're like, okay, it's leaving me now, all the joy, but I had it. We had this moment.
So we're gonna jump to our finale and the final five round. Kind of leading into this, Stephanie, one of the questions I did have for you, whether it was part of the subway trip or not, did you realize were you aware of the Andy, Rachel, Chelsea final three, that connection? I think you were in the bathroom drying your shirt or something when that whole car chat was happening. So you weren't aware of that, it sounds like, of that type bond. So going into that final five, you see these people here on the screen. I think it's funny. We see the challenge. It was the stacking challenge, and you're laser focused on Peter. And the minute he drops, you are so excited. So I think your assumption is right. Peter goes this round no matter what, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, that was another thing. Like pre-merge, I had no idea that Rachel, Andy, and Chelsea were like a thing. And it's actually wicked comical because I'm out of the car and they're all like, final three, this is it. Yeah. And then I get in the car. I was like, hey, Rachel, like, don't worry. We like you, dude. Meanwhile, like, I'm completely out of the plan. So that was funny watching back. I had no idea how close Andy and Rachel were. No idea. Chelsea, everybody liked Chelsea. She's brilliant. She's likable. Like that to me was obvious. But I didn't know Andy and Rachel were that tight. Peter was, damn it, Peter. Like we should have gotten you out before that. No offense.
You guys could have totally voted me out at 7. I literally could have done nothing. And that I will stand by that. You should have, and you didn't. And that's on you.
And we like,
or if I had played the advantage to protect Chelsea, you would have gone out on a revote. So you dodged some serious bullets, man. I give you all the credit.
Yeah, Hannah and I, that's one of our regrets, is not putting a vote on Peter during the Chelsea vote out.
Yep.
Next
time. We were watching Peter. Like all I knew was that all that needs to happen is Peter cannot win immunity in this round. Like that was it. You nailed it, Justin. I don't know. I can't really hide my feelings. I celebrated. Like as long as it's not Peter, I had 100%. Actually, can I talk about the Maya vote out? Like you didn't ask me. Can I talk about this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my number one regret. If I'm saying it too soon, it's too soon. I should never have ever voted Maya out. But at the end of the day, what we kind of was calling like the Subway Alliance, the seat in the car, like who was Chelsea's seat in the car? And the original Wet 2, when we were like, once we merged, we wanted Peter and Rachel to pick 2 other people so that when we went into the merge, it was 4 blue, 4 yellow, fair fight, right? That didn't really happen, but by the time it all started,
no, because you guys voted Matt out before 8. Whoops. And you thought I was with you? You voted him out.
But, okay.
Didn't you say that you would have let him go at the mergatory? So
But then ideally Meg makes it to 8. So
I mean, either way, that was like the overall arching plan, right? Because I really wanted this game to be a fair fight in the end. Like I really, really wanted it to be like strong. And so the Subway Alliance, Chelsea's gone. Who is going to take that seat in the car? And we had to leave it up to Rachel, and she said it was Hannah. And there's footage of me and Andy being like, dude, are we sure? Like me, you, Maya, dude, what happened? Me, you, Maya, like, are we sure we're gonna let Rachel do this? But at the end of the day, we said, yeah, I want Rachel to bring in her person, and then I'm with Andy, Rachel's with Hannah, and then gloves off, like, let's duke it out to the end and may the best person win. And so that's how, no offense, Peter, like that's how I went into that round. As long as Peter doesn't win immunity, then now all bets are off and may the best man win. But it didn't happen that way. I'm pressing mute.
And so Hannah, I want to come to you because I think you're a strong voice in this round where you, I think, work with Rachel and Rachel obviously chime in as well, but to really push to keep Peter because he's the GOAT you're going to bring to the final, right? Like he's the guy So talk to me a little bit about this round and kind of that perspective for you that you really wanted to keep Peter and take out Stephanie.
Well, I would just like to say, I definitely wasn't in my head like Peter is a GOAT that everyone would win against. Yeah. But for me, I felt like I wanted to be surrounded by people who, if they won immunity, would take me. So either I would win something and take someone, or they would take me. So, I mean, luckily for me, I think I ended up in that situation with the final three. And so I was trying to set myself up for that situation. Whereas with Steph, I like really liked her and liked working with her, but I didn't feel like she would take me over Andy or Rachel.
And I think she's right in that, Steph, right? Like she was right in that assumption. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's smart, Hannah. I think it's absolutely the right move for you at that time, to push that. Rachel, I saw you come off mute. Do you have a thought?
Yeah, I feel like for the Maya vote, I proved a lot to the yellow squad, and I finally flipped it on them, and I was like, this is your time to prove back to me. My numbers in blue are dwindling. Like, you got to vote out your person. So they did. And then I went back to my girl Hannah and was like, okay, like, you've done a lot for me, and I need to do something for you now. And I would rather have Peter stay. I would rather have Stephanie stay. But if you need it to be Peter, then like it's your turn to lead. I gotta make this like a fair alliance. I don't just want to be like manipulating you the whole game. Like we are a team, and if that's the way you need this vote to go, then that's fine with me. Because I felt like Andy was gonna take me to the end, no matter what it did for his game. Hannah was gonna take me to the end, no matter what it did for her game. Stephanie, I really think wanted to win and knew that I might beat her. So I wasn't as confident that she would take me to the end. And same thing with Peter. We had a lot of ups and downs throughout the game. So I didn't think that he was going to pick me, and he didn't. So I just needed Hannah and Andy. And after that, like, yeah, I'd rather have Stephanie stay, but that's my second choice to go. So if that's what you need to do, then we'll do it, I guess.
And Peter, did you do anything specific that round to try and position yourself as someone that would take these people, or that, you know, outside of asking Andy about his fake idol 1,200 times, what else did you do that round?
So that round, I did want Andy to go. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I did. But I was really convinced that it was a real idol. Like I really was. I don't know why someone would reach into a thing and pull it out and be like, this is a fake. And I know it was, and I totally get that. Like that was the one that you hid. But you didn't tell me that. And so I was just like, he just found an idol because Rachel had just played one. So went and re-enters the game. And like, it was all these things that I was like, that is probably real. And I wanted him gone, but if I voted for him, like Andy was voting for me. There were 3 real options because Rachel was going to play her idol, and it was me, Stephanie, and Andy. And if Andy felt like it was going to be him, he plays his idol, and he's not writing Stephanie's name down, so he's writing my name down. And so the safer option overall, and it never made sense for me to actually be one person to write Andy's name down. And so that's ultimately why I write Stephanie's name down, is because even if Andy goes, like in no world does it make sense for me to cast a vote for him if I think he's playing an idol. And the way that I saw it, I thought Steph would see that like it made sense to jump ship from Poda, because I was very out of all the social dynamics. Like the 4 of them were together. I didn't even know, like I was so out. Like I was such a pariah. It like I can't overstate how little I felt like I was part of the strategy in the end game. And like the fact that I made it through this vote like is shocking. Like it's crazy because like I was such a goat at this point, but also nobody wanted me around, which made me not a goat, if that makes like any sense. And so I wanted to vote for Stephanie and have the plan be Stephanie because I thought it was safer than Andy. Because I knew that there was at least one vote coming for me.
Because what you had heard was that the vote was going to be Andy, but that situation was because Stephanie was in the mix, and so they had to come up with a fake plan to tell Stephanie, right? And so, but you thought that was the real plan, and so you went in thinking, okay, that, and I think, Rachel, how do you feel about that?
Oh man, it drove me nuts because when we were at the Wetu, and we got the idol. It was my idea. I was like, we should make a fake idol and plant it in the end. And Andy was like, yeah, let's totally do it. I'm going to make a fake idol and I'm going to plant it. And then he came back and was like, this is my fake idol. And then Peter was like, it's not fake. I'm like, why would he? We pre-talked about it and then he did it in front of everyone. And then I changed my plan because that's what Peter and Hannah wanted. So now I'm going on a limb and voting for Stephanie. And the fact that he then almost didn't vote for Stephanie when I was doing it out
No, I was always going to vote
when
for
I
Stephanie.
didn't want to, tough.
I totally get it, but I do want to say, Rachel, is that like you knew a lot more than I did. And I knew very little. Like Andy didn't tell me where he hid it. We had that plan of that he was going to hide one, but like
I didn't know.
I didn't have any verification that it was that, and I didn't trust that, and I wasn't safe. So I had to play from a significantly more complicated position of self-preservation in that round. Like even if you didn't have an idol, I think you might get it a little bit more. But like you were really safe. Like you were
Yeah,
so safe.
That's fair. I didn't know where he put it though, and I was still whatever. And then when you were like, "Oh, that's the last thing we said together," like I can't tell you to vote out the person that's in our conversation. So I didn't think I had to go tell you another last thing because that squad wasn't a group of people that are going to be honest with each other because those were the group of people that might get voted out.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I just also thought that Stephanie was going to do Andy.
And I'd love to weigh in because I think in the episode we see obviously a lot of emotion for you that round specifically. I think and Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you know that Andy knew that you were going?
Oh my God, no! I did not know. Andy texted me after the episode and he's like, "Are we still good?" I was like, "Oh my God, yes, we're still good." Here's the thing, like. It's this classic like Survivor thing, and Rachel brought it up earlier in today's conversation. Is she felt close with Amelia, she slept with Amelia, and cuddled with Amelia at the whatever. So I watched that night, right? Like I was one of the last people to go to bed because I was not going to bed with wet clothes. Like I was toasting it like a marshmallow, all my clothes, and I watched Hannah and Rachel because we only had like 3 sleeping bags. So like everyone had to share a sleeping bag. And I watched Hannah and Rachel share a sleeping bag. No, sorry. Hold on. Wait, freeze. Right before that, the tribal before that, where Hannah had the advantage in her pocket. Rachel goes to play her idol, which nobody knew she had. And they locked eyes and Hannah pulls in her pocket and she kind of like shows Rachel the thing and she goes, "Should I?" And Rachel goes, "No, we're fine." And I was like, shit, I lost her. Like Rachel is no longer my girl. Like we're done. And it was in that one moment where you almost play the idol, didn't. Then Rachel finds a second idol. That is when I felt the game literally slip out of my hands. And then that night when Rachel and Hannah cuddled for warmth, I was like, we're done. Like I'm done. I don't know what to do. And we couldn't figure out who was the mistress and who was the wife. And that's fine. Rachel has a wonderful real life wife, but I don't know. Yeah. I just knew after that. And then that was the morning and I'm like, oh, I'm done. I'm so done. Like I'm out of this. And I knew on the walk, like you can feel it. And you know what they always say, like, if no one's talking to you or you're not scrambling, like I was sitting, I had a bloody nose, a bloody top of my nose, like not bloody inside. And I was just sitting on that box and no one was freaking talking to me. And that's, I think when I threatened Rachel or something. And yeah, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know Andy knew, but there was nothing we could do. So I really like Andy and I have run through this round like a million times and there's just like no other way around it. I really don't know what else we could have done. So no regrets.
Yeah, Andy, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's the, again, more woulda, coulda, shouldas, where it's like, if we really wanted to have control of things, I saved Chelsea, or, at 7, we pull in Sarah and try to wrest some of the control away from Blue. Like once we got to Maya and Rachel has 2 idols and Hannah, you have your thing, it's like that's a big chunk of the reason why we're willing to part with Maya at that point is partly we don't have a choice without a whole bunch of stuff coming out at that tribal and not knowing where all the chips are going to fall. But also, and this is the great failing of my approach to the game, where I'm always focused on the we and not the me. I listen, and I'm always in awe of the other 4 people here, and you too, Justin, when you play your games, the clarity of thought where it's like, what's good for my game? You guys all say that. You can look at every bit of confessional I ever do, and there's almost no mention of like end game, me. This is good for my game. It's always what's good for my people. And that's why I said when, Hannah was pushing for Steph to leave, you saw when Rachel told me, there was a moment in the episode where I was like, that's real? Like, I thought that was the cover story, and it was such a betrayal. And that's where I say, like, Hannah had this other gear that I wasn't aware of, where it's like, she's pushing for this. It's because she was thinking and putting herself first, which, as you said, Justin, is what she should have been doing. I just wasn't thinking that way because I thought we had Peter dead to rights. And like, Stephanie was not the only one who was celebrating. Like, I was like, crap, Peter's one of the last 2 here. If he wins, what the hell are we doing? And then he doesn't. And it's like, oh, thank God. And then to go from that to like, and that's why I felt good enough to like go and grab the idol and show it to Peter. Like, doesn't matter a lick that it's fake, man, because you're going, not that I was saying that to you. So, and I found out not long before that walk to tribal, like I didn't have a whole bunch of time to process that. It was just, this is real. What? Oh, it's time to go. We're going to get everyone for one last confessional. And then you get to see me ugly cry on camera because I can't process it. And I can't tell her because it's breaking my heart in half. And like on the walk, she's like looking and turning. She's like, I know it's going to be me. And all I can think to say is, why? Like, why do you think that? When I know that's what's going to happen. And you can see it in the voting booth where I'm saying like something horrible is about to happen. Like, my heart was breaking the whole damn time because I didn't see it coming. And that is a failing of how I play the game, but I wouldn't play it any other way because as I've talked with some of you about this before, like the way I play and what I find precious about these experiences. I'm survivor old. I'm a survivor old man, and I'm making friends, right? You don't make friends when you're over 50 with a bunch of awesome 20 and 30-year-olds. And you go on this journey and you do more living in 4 days than you do in 4 years. And you get to the end and you have these relationships. Like, how many of your relationships in your life have you betrayed one another or been tested over and over again where they really should betray you and then they don't because they care about you over other people? Like, we don't do that with the relationships in our lives. And so you do that with these people and these relationships, and you spend all of this time, and then to see it ripped away at the end by something I didn't see coming. I wanted to have an idol back in my pocket that I could hand to Stephanie and say, save yourself. I had played idols poorly. If I had done it differently, it's the whole what ifs, so many different things. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why I text Steph and say, are we good? Because if she said no, then you would have seen me ugly cry again. And that's not good. There's already footage of that. We don't need any more of that. Anyway, I say that in a long ramble to say I admire everybody's ability to put themselves first and think of what's good for them. That's just not me. But I think there are rewards for that, as painful as they might be.
And so sadly we see Stephanie depart. Stephanie has a few choice words in her exit video. Stephanie,
I just have to say one thing that didn't make it. What's that?
Talk me through those emotions. And I did have to trim down that exit interview quite a bit.
Justin made me look very, very normal on my exit interview because it was not. And these people, I apologize. I did not go with grace. I went out swinging. I went out mad. I cursed them all out as they were lined up for the next challenge. I cheered on Andy. And I was like, screw you all. I felt so betrayed by Rachel. Like, so betrayed by Rachel. Like, Peter and Hannah, love you guys. But it didn't hurt me as much, but when Rachel did it, I was like, what the heck, dude? And so I wanted, I just kept yelling like, let's let the next challenge be a fist fight with me and Rachel on the challenge field. Like I was beside myself. But yeah, and then, you know, we'll discuss this, but is the minute Rachel joined the jury bench, like we hugged, we were good. We cheers to high noon, and then we were good to go. But yeah, so yeah, emotional.
All right. We get to the final four. This is something that's becoming a bit of a classic for Outlast, which is a little bit of memory about what's happened over the course of the game. And as Andy, I think others have mentioned, your brain is just not in a great place to be doing any of that. And I will defend, I don't think the questions were as hard as you all thought they were, but I think it's a very entertaining challenge to watch. I also love the lead-in where Rachel's like, if it's running in trivia, I'm screwed. And Peter's like, I'm not running for rocks. And it's just like, it's so good. But I think the best part of the whole thing is it's truly a tale of like, never give up. Hannah, you obviously battled your way through that challenge, and to kind of get to the puzzle and dominate is amazing story. So tell us a little bit about that feeling.
Sorry, once again, I have to rewind for a second for
That's
something
okay.
else that was not caught on camera, where after Steph ran by and shouted her choice words at us, and we were like, I think me, Rachel, and Peter were like, yay, Final Four, and Andy's kind of like sadly standing to the side, feeling sad naturally. I think I turned to you, Andy, and I was like, oh, like I'm sorry that happened or something, like I apologize. And then Andy, I don't know if you remember this, but you were kind of, you said something to me like you were like, oh, you're not sorry or something. And then I think I then felt bitter or something. So I was like, or like kind of flippant. So I was like, you're right. I'm not sorry. I'm just sorry I made you feel bad or something like that. Like some interesting interaction. And then I remember as we were going out to the field, immediately Rachel was like, when she saw the challenge, I think you were like, you were like, oh no, should we have kept Steph instead for this challenge? And then I guess the only other like thing that was missed was that I remember I had given up so much that when I ran and got my rocks at one point, I like was shouting words at Rachel. I don't know if you heard me. Like I was assuming the puzzle is something like immunity, safety, final. So I was like shouting words like, try this, try that. Because I was like, I don't think I'm going to win. So at least maybe Rachel can win. In some
That's
way.
how little my brain was. Nothing.
But Hannah, tell me a little bit about the feeling of winning that, though, and kind of that drive not to give up, and to, you know, did you? I guess when you got to the table, you're like, I feel good about puzzles. Like maybe I have a shot.
No, I do not feel good about puzzles, so I did not think I had a shot. It was more like I just felt like it would. I don't want to say like look bad to give up, but I was almost like, there's no way I'm going to win, so I might as well just like hustle as much as I can. And the specific like moment that I remember thinking of was where like Noelle in the CBS show gets like caught in the wires or whatever, and then she gets out and wins immunity. So that was really like the moment that I was thinking of, like that you can be really, really far behind and catch up. So I think that's what kind of inspired me. But also I was like just assuming somebody else would win. So part of me was just like, okay, don't just stop, like just keep going, because you don't want to be just seen in the background while somebody wins immunity and you're just standing around doing nothing.
So obviously we're at the final four round. I think really the decision sits here with Rachel and Hannah, and kind of what, you know, which way you're going to lean. I think Andy says it pretty well. Either the two of you are going to vote for Andy and Peter will do the same, or the two of you are going to vote for Peter and Andy will do the same, or they're going to fire. So Rachel, talk me through a little bit about that decision. Hannah, obviously jump in where you'd like to. But obviously you all make the decision to go to fire versus kind of making a decision for one person to go. So talk to me a little bit about why it came down to that.
Yeah, it's still consistent with the past rounds. Like we really worked together on making the decisions, and this was another one where I really wanted Andy to stay because he was my number one on that side, and Hannah wanted Peter to stay. And she gave me the option, which was very nice, and was like, I'm willing to split it if you want to split it. And so we kind of held that back until the last moment, at least, so that there wasn't going to be a flip. But I also wasn't too concerned about a flip because I was extending another opportunity to Andy when like he could have just been gone. And I didn't think that he had it in him to now like work with Peter and vote against me and switch it. So we decided to split it. I wasn't telling Peter for a while, and then he just kept getting after it a little bit. And I was like, all right, you know what? Like, we're splitting it. I'm just going to tell you. So if you want to practice, like, you could practice. That's the best I could do for you right now. But like, I have to stick with Andy in this moment, and Hannah's sticking with you. So that's where we're at.
And Andy, I think I know the answer to this question, but was there ever a part of you that was like, I can work with Peter and vote for Rachel and have it be a 2-2 that way, and then I know I'm safe?
Peter and I talked about this briefly at one point where the thought went through my mind, the thought went through his mind, but we were effectively far enough apart from one another strategically and otherwise, where pulling that together on the walk in and having us trust and believe one another and actually do it without, if whoever brought it up, the other one wouldn't immediately go to the other two and say, you won't believe what he just said, need to vote him out and it'll be us three. And so there was no way to do it. Like, the thought was there, because it's like, you don't want to make fire because it's in your hands, but not in your hands. And it was, it's like, again, it's one of those woulda, coulda, shouldas in the abstract strategically, but I don't think it ever could have happened.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I've heard
to
jury have said that it seems like a mistake that we didn't work together. And I just want to say, like, it just wasn't, like, it couldn't happen. It just couldn't happen. There was just no way. And
some of it is a testament to how Rachel was playing the game and who she had pulled close. And it was just like, she was, as she said, I had saved me in previous iterations. Like, turning on her in that moment would have been again, it's one of those moves in Survivor or in the game where it's like, yeah, on paper you should do that, but the game isn't played on paper. It's played in the hearts and minds, and it had been played well enough by both Rachel and Hannah. Like, this is how it had to play out given who was left and what the relationships were.
And if it was real Survivor and $1 million, I probably wouldn't have told Peter that that's what we were doing, but I trusted Andy enough that I figured it was a decent enough risk to take.
Yeah.
And then I also wasn't even thinking like, oh, you're giving somebody a big move in front of the jury. Like, I was just thinking, oh, I want to work with my alliance member Rachel and have us both have a say in this vote. Like, I wasn't even thinking like, what's going to happen if somebody gets to the final two and how that would be bad for me or Rachel.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of my regrets and Hannah and I have talked about this a little bit. Like, she's awesome, and we never really connected. Like, we had conversations, but there wasn't a lot of depth there. And that's on me, where it's like, if I had a strong enough connection, could I have convinced Hannah, like, we don't need to go through going to fire. It does give someone a big claim. And if you want to be able to make an argument against Rachel and me, then this isn't the way to do it. But again, that would have been self-serving to avoid fire for myself. But also, if I had built a better bridge, could we have crossed it? And we'll never know.
I just wanted to say the other thing that prevented it with something from happening is that, like, I was supposed to lose. Like, it was like Peter loses fire. Like, it was so clear to me. It was so clear, I think, to the jury. I didn't know how to use the flint. My flint broke. Like, it was like Peter loses fire. And so, like, I didn't have power to go to Andy and be like, we shouldn't go to fire, because, like, Andy was going to win. Like, it just like I was supposed to lose fire. And I think the fact that I beat Andy, specifically Andy, was a part of the reason why actually at the end I pulled off jury votes.
So we'll wrap it with you, Andy, to just summarize anything else about the fire making specifically that you want to touch on. We obviously see it play out. Obviously, I cut it down quite a bit, quite a bit, to not make the finale go on too long. But anything there you think you could have done differently?
Well, first, I could have not been trying to coach up all of Wetu on our night together on how to make fire, because again, I've been around Survival Challenge long enough and I've made fires. I won't say that I'm great at it, but I'm good enough. But whether it's a combination of, a little bit of nerves, a little bit of I could not, I had things packed too densely at one point. I run off into the woods to get some more pine needles because I know I need a quick rush. Talked with Bobby afterwards, and he was like, yeah, if you had brought back a big branch, there were some dead trees back there, and just lit that and had it go up and burn the rope, well, you can do that as long as it's not touching the sides, as long as it fits the rules. And it had gone through my mind, but I was like, I don't know. But I don't want to take anything away from Peter. He stayed focused. We all make certain sort of sounds and body language when it comes to a nervous situation, and he grew more confident and I grew less. And I sort of panic is setting in, and I can hear him. I'm intentionally not looking over, but I can hear the fire starting to go. And as Peter was saying, it's I went in perhaps a little too overconfident, I was supposed to win that. And Survivor gods said, not today. It's not going to light up. Sorry. And it's okay. But it still sucks. I don't know what happens at Final 3, where, could I have talked Hannah into turning away from Rachel? Because, they were so tight, probably not. But there's an argument to be made where, convincing her that the jury might choose her over me, but not over Rachel. I want that moment back, but again, it plays out how it plays out. I realized in the aftermath that, and Peter and I talked about this briefly at the premiere party, I wanted to help tell the story of the season. I didn't get to do that in Can You Survive, and it drove me nuts. And Wetu, we finished 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 9th. And you can't tell the story of the season without us. And I'm damn proud of that. And I'm proud of the people that I played with, and damn proud of Peter.
Well, it's an epic way to go out. We then head into the final 3 immunity challenge. Peter, I think this feels like a have-to win for you, right? Is that kind of what's going through your mind as you walk out to that field?
Yeah, absolutely. It just, we were standing there as a 3, and I said, I know you guys take each other, and I don't have to win to make it. And Rachel goes, yeah, and I know you can't win for me to make it. And I was like, you're right, but I'm not going to say that. And so I just nobody said anything, but it was very clear to me that Hannah would take Rachel. And there was obviously a case that I could have tried to make, but I just didn't see it coming off well at all. And there was no way that Rachel would take me. Absolutely not.
I think that was a reason why we didn't work together too much as it got closer, because sometimes you'd come up to me and you'd be like, Rachel, we're at the bottom of this. We got to get out of here and switch to the blue side. You're not going to make it with them. And I was like, I really think that I am, but I agree that you're not. So I'm not going to like try to convince you to join my plan because I honestly don't think it's best for you, but it is best for me. So at that point, I was like, this relationship is just like not going to work in the game in the moments that we were in it.
For sure. I didn't think that, but you were right.
It seemed like you knew. I don't know.
Eventually, I knew, but I didn't right away.
And it's been now brought up twice, so I'm going to come to you. Is there a world in which you do not bring Rachel to the end once we hit this final four? Could Andy have convinced you? Could Peter have convinced you? Or are you taking Rachel no matter what?
I mean, clearly the right strategic move is to cut Rachel. But in all honesty, like, I don't think I wanted to ever cut Rachel. And I honestly, even in the moment, I knew it would be the wrong move not to take her. And yet I like knew that that's why I almost felt relieved when I was out of the final three, because I was like, oh, I don't have to be in this terrible situation where I either take Peter and could win. I don't know who wins. Or I was like, or I take Rachel. I'm definitely going to lose and probably lose by a landslide. But I almost like feel like I would have taken her knowing that, which is, I know it's not a good game move, but that's just like how emotionally I felt.
Yeah, if this was like a big CBS reunion show and I could ask the whole jury, and I feel confident in saying if you win that and you make the choice to cut Rachel at 3 and take Peter, I'm pretty sure, I don't want to guarantee it, but I'm pretty sure you would win. I think I think you're right. It's great to not have to make that choice because I do think either of them take you to the end. So that's a great position to be in. But I do think if you can, it's hard. It's the hardest thing is to make that cutthroat decision of like, I'm going to choose, Andy said to Twitter, I'm going to choose me and not the people game or the relationship game. I'm going to choose me and what's best for me. It's hard. It's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah. And I mean, just as Andy, how you're talking about how you're like more of a we player, I feel like I was an I player, except for when it came to Rachel for some reason. Like there were some.
She does do.
Well, it's a testament. One of the things I've said about the game for a long time is that the best players can make other players want to make the emotional decision that is not in their own best interests. And Rachel had that with you and others, where it's like people were willing to make decisions which did not further their own games, but they wanted to play the game with Rachel. And that's great gameplay.
So Peter, was there a world in which you win that challenge, right? You win the challenge. Is there a world in which you take Rachel? I know we forced you to answer the question like I would take Rachel to the end but is there a world in which you actually do that?
No. I had just before going out there finished watching a season of Australian Survivor where someone wins the final challenge and takes someone that they weren't supposed to and loses by 1 vote. And it just was like sitting with me that was like, don't do it. There's no reason to. It doesn't win you the game. It might win you some points, but like why? It doesn't matter. Just don't do it. And so at the end of the day, like I knew, regardless of how well I thought I would do against Rachel, which I didn't think was very well, it was just like, don't be the hero and don't take the person. Don't be woo. Don't take the person that's going to win.
Although I stand by the fact I think Cass could win that game, but maybe I'm wrong. I think she could win. Rachel, anything you think you could have done differently at that round, or is there a better path for you?
No, I think I had a lot of good paths to the end, and I honestly the only choice I regret is not throwing a vote on Peter for the Chelsea vote. But besides that, I think I played a good game, and to be in that final 4 where I knew I had, or what was it, final 3? Final 3? I knew I had a 66% chance of making it to final 2. That is some good odds going into it. And obviously the wrong guy for me won. But that also brings like his reason for not taking me. It was another thing with Stephanie of like, I don't know if I believe her now in hindsight that she would take me to a final 3 either. I believe she'd take Andy, but beyond that, I might have had like a small percent more of a chance that she'd take me than Peter, but I still don't really believe it.
Explain. I lost the trail there. So if it had been you, me, and Stephanie in the final 3 about getting to the final 2, because that's the where, and I know we disagree on this, but if you had gone to the final 3 with us, that I would have told Stephanie to take you. If she had won, or not. Told is not the right word. I would have asked her and encouraged her.
I was talking about going from 4 to 3, but also I don't think you could tell Stephanie anything. She can do whatever the heck she wants.
It's true. It's fair. But I basically, it's a long-winded way of saying I think you had more avenues to the end with different permutations of the people who are up on this screen. And again, it's a testament to how you kept so many different options alive. Where, like Peter, you navigated probably, like, if there were 100 paths to the end, there were like 3 to 5 that involved you in the end, and then in winning, and but you found that path, and just Rachel had a whole bunch of those paths, but it just those didn't come about to transpire. It's just one of the fun things about the game. But I also, Peter, I have to give you kudos for using the upper hand method in the gripping of that challenge. That is how you do that challenge, just to be clear.
Thank you.
All right, so we head into final tribal council. Hannah, I'll come to you first. Anything you wish you had done differently, kind of looking back? I'm sure there's many things, but take a minute or so and kind of talk to me a little bit about that feeling. Obviously, first-time player, it's your first time at a final tribal and having to find a way to pitch yourself. So talk to me a little bit about that feeling and maybe what you would have done different.
Yeah, this is final tribal council is probably where I have my biggest regrets, if I'm being results oriented, that I got to the end. Obviously, I wish I'd pitched myself better, been more confident. The things that I said earlier were both Justin and Rachel. You were both like, why didn't you say that? Like, I think there were a lot of things like that. Like I've talked about it with Steph, how to me, in my reality of the game, me and Rachel were partners and we made decisions together. I did think that Rachel was a more dominant strategic force and had more connections. But in our conversations, it felt like we were making decisions together, or at least going back and forth. And I wasn't aware of, maybe there was a different perception about like our games. So I wish I'd been more confidently and aggressively addressing that. And then right before we went, I had soot in my eye and had to have my eye flushed out by medical. So while we were supposed to be sitting and thinking and planning, I was like in the medical distress. So I just wasn't mentally in it. Like when we sat down and people were asking us questions, I just didn't feel mentally in it. Like I remember Matt asked a question like, what's a big move or a small move that you made? And I was like, I know I did things, but I just can't even think of any moves. So yeah, probably just advocating for myself better.
Yeah, it's so hard. And I think, we even see people struggle with it on the real show, as we call it, right? Like it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to, when you're in that mental state, just like think about the entirety of your game, and all the points you want to make, and field the questions in the right way. It's extremely challenging. And I think, again, for both you and Peter, being first-time players, having to face that without really ever seeing probably many other LRGs or any LRGs, really. Peter binged the first season. I wouldn't say either of those final tribal council speeches were stellar examples either. Love Nick and German, love them to death, but it's a really hard thing to do, is to have the right nuance and the right confidence and the right points to talk about to secure that win. So, Peter, how about for you? Anything that you would have done differently? I know it's maybe a little bit different question for you because you pulled it off, but anything you wish you had done different?
Yeah, I wish I had highlighted more like my path through the game. So people, I guess, had this perception of me as like not doing anything in the pre-merge, because I didn't go to tribal council, which is totally true. But from my perspective, like I don't know, did they want me to go to tribal and get voted out? Like I don't know. That was just like kind of how I thought about it. And so if I had stated more clearly that I was under threat of going for a lot of the game, and that I was like the ultimate underdog throughout this game, that like I was gonna for a lot of challenges, if I didn't win immunity, I was gonna go home, and had laid out that path clearly, and had, I think, explained more clearly why my attempt to vote out Stephanie at 8, which I think is a great move, but another thing, that's for another time maybe. And I had laid out why that was better for both for people that were on the jury, and for myself. I think that would have been good for me. I went into final tribal council just trying to create a narrative for myself and speaking about what it meant for me to make it through all the things that had mattered to me, emotionally, just playing the game, because I kind of knew that like nobody saw me strategically as a strategically viable winner. And so I was like, let's move the conversation away from that, because they're going to give Hannah credit for that over me. And so I need to narrativize my win and try to like make my win, make myself seem like a candidate for this game, not necessarily in a purely strategic sense, which I think worked, but,
is that a word? Editor Andy, is narrativize a word? Is that right? I don't know if I've ever heard of that word.
Oh, come on. Anyway, but I think the other thing that was going through my mind is that I really hadn't wanted to sit at the end with a woman, specifically because of how season 1 had gone, and knowing a lot of the people that were on season 2 just really wanted women to do really well. It was just very clear, like it wasn't that like men were getting voted out or anything. It just like I just knew that like Stephanie and Maya and Chelsea were like into the idea of women being at the end. That didn't mean that they weren't going to work with men. Like I was never like that was like out of the picture. But I and so going into final tribal, I was like, Hannah has played a really great game, and if she can articulate it really well, and the jury really wants a woman to take it out, as I know that they kind of do, it's going to happen. And there's not really much that I can say against that. And I don't want to speak about that because I think there's enough stigma around like what games women can play and how they get credit for the games that they play. And I was really trying to just like avoid that entirely, because it's obviously not good for me if that's a motivation for people to vote to win. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we get to kind of a wrap up lightning round, anything? I'll ask this question. We'll start with Stephanie. Stephanie, looking back on the season, now that you've seen all the episodes, would you change your vote at Final Tribal?
Why you gonna ask me the tough questions, Justin? Going off, man. You know, like Peter said, I literally went into this game being like, I think I even like told you, Justin, before the game started, like it's going to be all women finale. Like I'm doing it. And you were like, just slow down, like just see what happens, relax. And it's what I wanted more than anything. And so it's so contradictory that I didn't vote for Hannah. Right. But I truly, and I'm very straightforward with Hannah with this. Like I truly did not see her game during the game because we didn't really work together. And I truly did not hear her game at Final Tribal. And I wasn't sitting with the jury long enough to hear anything that she had done. And so it felt like kind of silly for me to vote for Hannah just because she's a woman. So I wanted to like I hate myself for that. Sorry, Hannah, I love you, but like I hate that I like, you know what I mean? So would I have changed my vote? Geez. I think watching the episodes, I'm seeing how strategic Hannah was and the way that she could talk about the game. I think kudos to Rachel, kind of really kept me and Hannah apart during the game. She, you know, I don't know, Rachel, you kind of tried to make me feel like Hannah was like fragile. You got to be careful. Like, I'll deal with Hannah. Don't worry. Like, I'll take care of this. Maybe not intentionally, but I was like, okay, like, I'm not going to, you got Hannah. Like, I'm good. I'll go over here. You got Hannah. That's it. So, yeah, I don't know. Don't ask me that because I can't. You can't like. I can't go back in time. But watching it, I definitely saw another more strategic side of Hannah that I really respect. So good job, Hannah.
Andy, how about for you? Kind of seeing the series back, would it change your vote at all?
I talked with Peter about this after the game was over, but before the episodes were coming out. With it's the game is so fast in all of its permutations and all of its facets, including making up your mind about these things, particularly because the jury was under instructions to really not compare notes heavily and try to influence each other's votes. And so, upon reflection, I probably, if I had had more time to sort of think things through and see things more holistically, I would have voted for Peter, but I didn't. Because I felt, and I said it in my voting confessional, that I felt he tried to do a lot of things, but didn't accomplish them. And on the strategy side of things, that's what I tend to look for. But when I look at the whole journey and how he pulled his butt out of the fire so many times and could have been gone, and I've told him and Steph, like, one of my favorite aspects of the whole game was doing the slide puzzle with Stephanie, not only doing the puzzle with her, but also Peter was the one who was running up with the last pieces of information. And he just so palpably, desperately wanted to avoid going to tribal on that one. And he was just giving it his all. And he is out of breath and sweating. Like, he's a mess. And you can't help but admire that. And like, that was him at every juncture. When he had to pull one out, he pulled one out. And I admire that. But I voted for Hannah because, and I was actually just, talked about this with Steph, like, in my mind, Hannah took out Steph. And that is the biggest move in my heart and in this game, in the post-merge game, flipping the game at that moment. And that came from her. And in looking into her eyes and talking to her about it, that moment of a bit of venom from me, and I am sorry for that, for not believing your apology. But it's like, you had put yourself first and you made sure it happened. And that is great gameplay. And that's the moment that stuck with me when I went to the voting booth. Like, that's somebody who really shaped the outcome of the game, shaped why she is here in the finale in a strategic way, as opposed to, pulling things out. But again, I think the vote count reflects just how close it was between the two of them. It could have gone either way. And either one of them taking down the title, they should both be really proud of how they got there to the end. It's just in that splitting of differences. Hannah did the one thing that perhaps A, I didn't see coming, and B, don't know that I'm capable of. And so I admire it in somebody else.
Rachel, I think I know the answer, but I'll ask you anyway. Would you swap your vote looking back?
I would have kept my vote. I honestly was sad that I didn't get more Ponderosa time because I really did separate Hannah and Stephanie. I think Stephanie said in a group chat with us that, like, I was CEO and they were my regional managers, and they both had their own people that they were managing for me, but they were my head people. But they then didn't talk to each other. So a lot of people didn't get to see Hannah's game. And honestly, a lot of the blue people didn't get to see Stephanie's game because I was that middleman. So I wish that I was able to hype her up a little bit more. But I also understand where the votes went. I think Peter crushed that final speech and everything like that. And I respect Peter's game. I feel like he reminded me a lot of Jake O'Kane from last season, where he keeps getting dealt the bad cards and he knows they're bad cards and he's trying to do everything he can to get good cards and it's just not working, but he knows they're bad cards and he's working towards it. So he played a game that I'm not interested in playing, but I respect, and I think he did it as well as he could. But obviously I would have kept my vote on Hannah, and I feel bad that she didn't get the recognition that she deserved because of me.
And I find it, I was sitting next to Rachel when the final vote was read. And in typical Rachel fashion, just the quick aside, she was just like, fucking stupid. And it was like, yeah.
That's great. All right, we'll wrap with a quick lightning round of 3 quick questions, and we're just gonna go in your order again. So, what was your favorite challenge? Favorite challenge, Stephanie.
Slide puzzle, period.
All right, Andy.
Just because it's already been taken, I would say the slide puzzle, just because, that was a good bonding thing for me and Steph. But, as much as I paid a price for it, going head to head with Bartley in that final puzzle, but having done slingshots, all these different things that I obsessively prepare. Like, I had a slingshot at home, and even though I was terrible, obviously everyone was in that challenge, but
never
then
doing
to get
again ever. Just
no, I don't recommend it.
Don't practice slingshots.
No. But then to go head to head with Bartley and then take that puzzle, which again, I had that moment where I didn't have on Sunday with that final 4 challenge, where it's like, take a step back, take a deep breath. You know what some of the secret things here are about what piece needs to be on the bottom and how you need to face it and what the second one needs to be. Took the deep breath, finally put the pieces into place, and it sunk in that I was going to get to wear the necklace, and I've never worn the necklace before, so that was cool.
Awesome. Rachel, how about for you? Favorite challenge?
I'm a sucker for an obstacle course, so I like the one that he just talked about too, with all those different steps. And I really like the trivia one if it didn't end in trivia. I like the obstacle part, but once you do trivia, I'm out.
Yeah, it's funny, Rachel. I didn't include a lot of it because they were my clues, or my guidance was so horrible. But the pyramid ball puzzle pyramid, where I was trying to help you guys out with clues, and you were just like, "Is this sideways? Is this sideways? These are all sideways." I'm not very good with giving hints, so we're gonna try to make that better for next time. And Hannah, favorite challenge?
Obviously, the final 4 win from behind one, and then I also like the heroes challenge where me and Tim held up those heavy things for a long time.
And Peter, how about for you?
Yeah, it's definitely the slide puzzle. I like doing it. I was like, this is good TV, and just like was just awesome. And like my connection with Stephanie and Andy there just like was born, and it just like forged in fire. But also shout out to the final 3 challenge. I just think that that's an incredible, iconic endurance challenge, and I was really happy to win it. So
yeah. Shout out to Lori and her husband again for making our challenges. We've got a good one for season 3 that they made. It's a good one. Get ready. And one of my favorite moments that I still like, I've kept the video on my phone because it's my favorite, where Stephanie's just falling apart, and she's like, I just want to talk to the person in the front, and it was so funny. Like I love that moment. All right. Biggest regret, or like if you go back and change a single moment in the game, what would you do different? Stephanie.
I never would have voted out Maya. Never.
So what do you do different in that moment? Because it's really hard, right? It's basically 3-3. Rachel's got 2 idols. What can you do different there? Anything quickly, if you can.
Who was immune that round?
Peter.
Oh shit, yeah. Well, then me, Andy, and Maya should have gone for Hannah. Like that should have been it. But I knew she had that advantage, so there was really our hands were tied, but we should have fought for Hannah, right?
Yeah, I am curious. Like we obviously I don't want to go too long on this, but like it didn't. So Hannah didn't play her advantage, and Rachel didn't use an idol on her. So if the 3 of you had voted for Hannah, like something maybe could have happened, but. I just don't know how realistic that seemed at that time, that both of those things wouldn't happen, that she wouldn't do the advantage and wouldn't get an idol played on her,
I don't think Andy would have done that to me.
Would you have, Andy?
No. I at that point I trusted that as I made the argument to you, Steph, that as I liked Maya, I do like Maya. I think she's great, but that was the spot where she was going to go somewhere in that 6-5 zone anyway. If we were sticking to this idea of like Rachel, Hannah, you and me, and so losing Maya there, I understand, but it was helped by the fact that there were idols and advantages out there. It's like, but we don't even need to trigger them because we think we still have a path to the end, and that would turn the final 5 into just an insane amount of contention. Like there's weapons out there and everybody doesn't trust anybody anymore. And it didn't feel like the right thing to do.
Yeah, our hands were tied. Tied. Or taking out Rachel. Like we should have taken out Rachel, but whatever.
Andy, how about for you? Biggest regret?
The easy one would be the playing the advantage for Chelsea, but she told me no, and more than once. And I really wanted to, but you don't doom somebody to have to spend another night in the freezing cold when they're saying don't play it. So I'm not going to choose that one. My biggest regret, honestly, if on day one, early on, I had been able to forge the bond with Steph and I hadn't effed that up so damn badly from the get-go, I would have been able to shape POTA earlier. This is where my ego kicks in. I find that damn idol. I don't know how the hell you people didn't find the idol. People had the clue and they didn't find the, anyway. I think if Steph and I could have done some damage from the beginning of the game, but maybe the story was meant to be told this way, where we get to come together in the middle of the game and then help shape the end game. But that's my regret, was not, like when she ran off, it's like, you should go and explain what the hell you were trying to say and not have this turn into a big old mess that has to be cleaned up in 24 hours. But
yeah, I will say it's one of my favorite arcs of the whole series, right? Like the story between you two is so interesting, right? And because of how the pre-merge kind of happens, it's an interesting dynamic to watch, because it's, other than that, it's a pretty, I don't want to say it's a predictable pre-merge, but once we get to the swap, right, there's a lot of more predictable votes, I would say. So I like that. The Wet 2 story is interesting in that it kind of really brings that group together, and specifically you two with your checkered past.
And just to throw in one thing here, I know that there was some contention at the finale party about where my true loyalties lie with either Steph or Rachel. And I ultimately, if we had gotten down to a final 3, that would have been a sticky situation. But in the end, I just have to say it, that there's only one person that I ugly cry for, and she knows who it is.
All right, Rachel, for you, any regrets?
Just not putting votes on Peter for the Chelsea vote.
All right. Hannah, for you, regrets?
Not advocating for myself.
Oh, sorry, I got a very weird audio there.
Oh no.
I'll advocate for her. She said not advocating for myself at the end.
I'm getting a weird feedback on my mic, but I don't know if anybody else is hearing it. So, all right, Peter, am I good now, sound-wise? Everything fine? All right, Peter, any regrets?
Yeah, I think not telling Sarah, Bartley, and Hannah about the Wet 2 deal in that vote where I voted for Stephanie. I think if I had said that, they might have seen how low they were on it, and then that vote would go through. I don't want to get too much into this vote because I have a lot of thoughts about it. But I think it's good for Bartley because he stays in one more round. It's good for Sarah because she keeps her options open. It's good for Hannah because she becomes a more obvious player in the game. It's good for Maya because she breaks off of the Wet 2 group that she was on the bottom of. It's good for me because I come off of that too. And it's bad for Stephanie because she obviously goes home, and it's bad for Rachel and Andy because that's important for them. But I think that vote not going through and me not knowing what to do to get it done is my biggest regret, because I think that the game seriously opens up after that in a way that's good for most people that were in the game at that time. So,
all right. Thank you, Peter. I'm sure you have lots more to say on that. You can add it in the comments when the video is posted. All right, last question is, when you look back on the season, what's like the one moment or one thing that stands out to you the most? So like, what's your favorite, I don't want to say favorite moment, but what do you remember? What's the first thing that stands out for you, Stephanie?
Our Wet 2 group, the night that we won the food, we started fire, we got to know each other, we were at peace, we were at the top of the world winning those challenges, and I learned that Andy was a mastermind, and he taught me so much about the game of Survivor. I feel like I'm a better player now just for playing alongside him. So yeah, Wet 2.
Right. Andy, for you, what's the moment that stands out?
Yeah, Wet 2 was magic. But I'm going to go in a different direction in that, as you saw in my exit interview, where, feeling like maybe I still have something left in the tank, that people, that I can maybe still hang with these people. But, it's about, again, the human connection side of things. And, the moment that, as we move through space and time, memories fall away and we're left with what we're left with. And when I left the game and was walking out in the field, and I'm a bit heartened, but I'm also a bit broken that it played out that way. And Steph ran up and gave me a hug, and it was okay then.
All right, Rachel, for you, moment that stands out.
The earn your merge situation. I feel like I was finally playing the game and it was a lot of fun, and I compared it to The Bachelor, and I still feel strongly about that. It was such a fun feeling. Yeah.
Nice. Hannah?
Okay, is my audio better now?
No, it's really bad. All right, Hannah's going to type her answer in the chat, and I will read it out to us all. It'll be great. While she's doing that, Peter, how about for you?
Yeah, so for me, it's that night that wasn't aired, of course. The last night when I made fire, when everyone else was asleep or with other people and not tending to the fire.
Yeah.
I just, like, that night, I was just like very, very focused and very calm in a way that I hadn't been for the rest of the game. And it set me up, I think, for the next day. Obviously, immediately the next morning, I fall apart again, but it was important in the moment. And then winning final immunity, I was like, wow, I actually think I can actually win this game. And that was not something that I had thought from like any point basically in the game. And so, yeah, those are the two moments that I hold up as like important to me, both for like winning and then also just like as a person, and believing in myself and the strength of myself.
Great. And Hannah said it was the Final Four immunity win because she is not a sporty person. And it's something that she did all on her own that she can only attribute to herself. So that's great. Well, is there anything else anybody wants to get off their chest as we wrap up? Anything else we missed, we didn't cover? I know it's a big gap probably through a lot of pre-merge and merge that we didn't talk about too specifically, like every round. We'd be here all night if we tried to do that. But if there is anything anybody else wants to say before we wrap, now's the time to do so.
Me being, someone who loves LRGs, I just want to give a shout out again to the cast, including like Trey doesn't feel connected to the event. We traded texts at one point, but I hope that he comes sort of back into the fold because I enjoyed playing with him. He was a great kid. I actually, in my self-defeating ways, like when I knew I was in trouble, but I could see that he was starting to feel the trouble that night and was starting to spin. I tried to sit next to him on the chest and it's like, dude, do you want to talk this through? Do you want to think it through? I wanted to help him because I could tell he was spinning. And he's like, no, just walked off and decided to go try to get some sleep. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But it's like, we all have moments with everybody in this cast. And someone like Tim, I never had a chance to play with him. I thought he was intimidating as hell, but cool. And like, I was afraid of him a little bit, and thought that he would be somebody that would be hard to battle. And I just want to make sure that everyone gets a bit of a shout out here that the cast was very strong. I've been around a lot of casts, and it's not the same experience without all of them. So we appreciate it from first to last.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was an amazing cast, right? And as I said, we had 6 alternates, and every cast is unique. Every cast is different. And I look back and we knew going into the game that every vote was going to be weird and hard. And like, we're going to lose good people from first to last, right? Like there, it's weird to say, but there are no duds, right? There are no duds in this cast that, I feel like sometimes in games there are a couple duds, people that don't have any idea what they're doing. And they, maybe are not interested in playing the game or those types of things. And we just didn't have that. It was great. It's a great cast. It was a great season. And very much looking forward to seeing many of you back for season 3 as we launch our next game. It's going to be quite an epic season. So thank you very much, Final Five, for being a part of this little reunion and chatting through. Appreciate all your insights, your memories. Anybody else wants to say?
Just thanks to you, Justin. You crushed it. And thanks to the production. It was so fun to be with them. And Sia, if you're out there, my Venmo's Rachel's-Karen. But thank you, everybody who was able to make it all happen.
Yes, thank you to the amazing team. I am fortunate enough to kind of be the front person, but Outlast is much, much bigger than me. And there's a whole host of people that really make this thing work. And if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, it would still go. That's such a bad thought. Why would I even put that out there? But I just think it would still go on. It'd still be wonderful because it's an amazing team of folks that really care a lot about this group and the game that we put on. So thank you, Rachel, for saying that. It is an amazing team. All right.
I recommend anybody to apply and play. Justin, you are a mastermind in terms of this game. Like every twist and turn, I'd be like, damn it, Justin again. Like he's awesome. He puts on an excellent game. I recommend anybody to come play, give it a shot. Like I am not supposed to be sitting here in the top 5 at all. I'm not even supposed to be out in the woods. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. Apply, get your butt out there.
Yeah, for sure. All that.
Yeah, thank you very much. We had a record number of applications for season 3, and we hope just to continue to grow and grow. We've got a great cast for this year. Fingers crossed everyone sticks through to the end here. We get them all out there in July. But if any alternates are watching, you never know, right, Peter, right, Hannah? Never know what can happen. Thank you all so much for being a part of this, being a part of our second season. And with that, we'll wrap up so you all can get to bed.